Chapter 4600. Scholar Palace Master, have you thought it through? The Tai Ching Palace Master was a bit confused. He coldly looked at Wen Chu and said, "Are you going to attack this king?" "Not just him." Xiao Hua laughed loudly, "There's also this Xiao." As he spoke, Xiao Hua also rubbed his hands together. A five-colored hand of lightning attacked the Tai Ching Palace Master from another direction. Generals. Sun Jian's face turned cold. He ordered, "Attack. Kill." The immortal generals were helpless. They once again braced themselves and charged forward from all directions. Seeing Heavenly King Qin Yu and Heavenly King Fu Yu pouncing towards Xiao Hua's legs, Lu Tong Palace, Huala Palace, Xingyue Palace, Xinyang Palace, Jingju Palace, and the other palace guards pouncing towards Xiao Hua's arms and other areas, Sun Jian roared loudly. His three-pointed, double-edged blade drew a cold light in the air and chopped towards Xiao Hua's forehead. Sun Jian had only just attacked when he saw Xiao Hua suddenly turn his head. The delusion breaker Dharma eye between his brows suddenly opened. A silver pillar of light shot out from the Dharma eye. With a boom, it shot into the void. "Ah!" A shocked scream came from the void. Immediately after, the Tianji Palace Master Xie Xian's figure staggered out of the void. At this moment, there was a bloody hole in Xie Xian's arm. Four-colored true qi rushed out and was healing the wound. Clearly, he was injured by Xiao Hua's delusion breaker Dharma eye. "Io!" Just as Xie Xian's figure appeared, Sun Jian's shocked cry came, "Tianji Palace Master, dodge." Xie Xian felt a cold wind in his face. It was Sun Jian's three-pointed, double-edged blade. He didn't have time to think about why Sun Jian called him Tianji Palace Master. His figure quickly flashed as he tried to dodge. But at this moment, the situation suddenly changed. The hand of lightning and five-colored hand that were originally falling towards the Tai Ching Palace Master suddenly changed directions and firmly covered him. The Tai Ching Palace Master was stunned. He looked at Sun Jian in confusion. The two-colored light he activated also condensed and didn't shoot out. Damn it! Seeing the space around him being sealed by the giant hand, how could Xie Xian not know that he had fallen into Sun Jian and Xiao Hua's trap? He angrily cursed. The multicolored light around his body blossomed like a scorching sun, and a boundless aura instantly rushed out from the seal of the large hand. Gotcha! Xiao Hua's hand of thunder and Wen Chu's large hand of five colors unexpectedly cracked at this time. How is that possible? The Grand Purity Palace Master was shocked as he growled, "When did Xie Xian reach the 9th grade of essence energy?" Humph. Just as Xie Xian was about to break free from Xiao Hua and Wen Chu's joint imprisonment, an incomparably dignified voice sounded from afar, "Xie Xian, we trusted you in vain, but you actually did such a despicable thing behind our backs." Gotcha! Just as Immortal Emperor Gaochun's voice sounded, a sword cry was heard. Immediately after, a phoenix cry and dragon roar resounded. A lifelike Son of Heaven's sword came out from Xiao Hua's hand of thunder. At the edge of the oval sword, the silver sword light still contained 10,000 layers of sword intent. The mountains and rivers, the myriad forms of the world, and the pavilions of the sky were all inscribed chains. The 3 layers of sword intent suddenly soared into the sky and rushed towards the blue dome of heaven. "So it really is with you." Immortal Emperor Gaochun's voice was like thunder. A huge pillar of light rushed out from the golden throne like a huge dragon roaring as it pounced over. Seeing the golden pillar of light descending, Xiao Hua and Wen Chu retreated at the same time. Xie Xian obtained his freedom and hurriedly yelled, "Your Majesty, what is this?" Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, the pillar of light had already descended and suppressed the space around Xie Xian. Within the golden light, Xie Xian's body stood there as if it was frozen. On his face, the Son of Heaven's sword in his hand had also turned into a real sword phantom. When Xiao Hua and Wen Chu attacked Xie Xian at the same time, the celestial being and the Jade Pure Palace Master had already noticed that something was amiss. They both stopped and stood to the side. Seeing Immortal Emperor Gaochen make his move, the Jade Pure Palace Master seemed to understand something. He looked deeply at the phantom of the Son of Heaven's sword inside the golden light and clasped his hands towards Immortal Emperor Gaochen. "Congratulations, Your Majesty." "Damn." The celestial being grinned and said, "Dao friend Shao, so you didn't come to cause trouble at the Immortal Palace." Heavenly King Qin Yu and Heavenly King Fu Yu were even more alert. When they attacked Xiaohua, they still held back 40% of their strength. When they saw the sudden change, they all retreated. At this time, seeing Immortal Emperor Gaochen personally make a move, they also understood and bowed together. "Your Majesty is wise, congratulations." On the other hand, the East Sea Empress flew over in a very strange manner. She looked at Xiaohua in confusion, then at Sun Jian. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but stopped. Jade Pure Palace Master, Tai Pure Palace Master. Sun Jian saw the Immortal Emperor use the Golden Throne to suppress the Hall Master of Heaven's secret hall, Xia Xian, and his heart calmed. Golden light flashed around his body, revealing his original appearance. He bowed and said, "Junior has offended you just now, please forgive me." You. The Tai Pure Palace Master looked at Sun Jian in surprise and said, "You're already the sage of literature?" It wasn't just the Tai Pure Palace Master. Heavenly King Qin Yu, Heavenly King Fu Yu, and the others were also very shocked. They couldn't believe their eyes. Everyone. Immortal Emperor Gaochen glanced at Xiaohua and revealed a meaningful smile. He said, "Everything before was set up by this emperor. The goal was to find this heaven-defying thief who secretly took the Son of Heaven's sword's shell. Xiaohua, enlightened Master Xiao, is a good friend of the Wisdom Palace Master. How could he cause trouble at the Southern Heaven's Gate? And the Scholar Palace Master, Wen Chu, is the immortal master of our Confucian cultivators. How could he betray the Immortal Palace? Today, Daoist Xiao helped this emperor capture this emperor. This emperor is very grateful, so this emperor will confer upon Daoist Xiao the title of Thunder Master." Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't ask for Xiaohua's opinion. Instead, he looked at the Tai Pure Palace Master and said with a smile, "Tai Pure Palace Master, you've seen Daoist Xiao's lightning hand. Do you think this title of Thunder Master is suitable? Your Majesty is wise." The Tai Pure Palace Master was also confused, so he could only cup his hands and flatter. "Good." Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "This emperor, in the name of the Immortal Palace Master, confer upon Daoist Xiao the title of Thunder Master." What does this have to do with? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He knew that this was Immortal Emperor Gaochen's imperial technique. Even though he didn't really want to attack the Immortal Palace, his battle with the Tai Pure Palace Master and the Jade Pure Palace Master at the Southern Heavenly Gate would definitely make him famous in the 3 continents. This fame was a naked slap to Immortal Emperor Gaochen's face. No matter what the truth of the matter was, Immortal Emperor Gaochen couldn't defend himself. But at this moment, Immortal Emperor Gaochen actually took advantage of Xia Xian's capture to cleverly resolve the crisis with a force of 4 taels to 1,000 jin. He said that this embarrassing farce was deliberately arranged by himself. One had to admit that this Immortal Emperor Gaochen was truly the master of the Immortal Palace, causing Xiaohua to feel admiration in his heart. Xiaohua didn't put the title of Thunder Master in his eyes. He actually had the heart to refuse, but at this moment, after Immortal Emperor Gaochen finished speaking, one after another, jade-like inscriptions flew out from his mouth. These inscriptions fell in the air and gave birth to countless strange lights and shadows. Where these lights and shadows flashed, the Immortal Palace also faintly trembled. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of thunder rushed out from the Immortal Palace. One after another, the power of an indescribable law transformed into the shape of a crown and fell towards Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. Just as he was about to activate his divine ability to stop it, the 5-colored true qi in his body was lively and surging in his middle dantian. Then, like a fountain, it rushed towards the top of his head. Seeing the abnormality of the five-colored true qi, Xiaohua knew that this law was not directed at him, so he didn't stop this true qi. However, just as the five-colored true qi was about to rush out of his body, Xiaohua suddenly had a thought and hurriedly suppressed the five-colored true qi. This was because he understood very well that as long as his five-colored true qi rushed out, Wen Chu would definitely have a reaction. Then, the fact that Wen Chu was his avatar would definitely be exposed in front of Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others. Damn it. Xiaohua secretly cursed, this Immortal Emperor Gaochen is too cunning. Sure enough, seeing that the crown of light fell on Xiaohua's head and Wen Chu in the distance not making any movements, Immortal Emperor Gaochen's eyes unconsciously gave birth to a strange expression. Of course, this expression was blocked by the golden light of the crown, so other people couldn't see it. The light fell on top of Xiaohua's head and turned into a crown. Just as the crown appeared, boom boom boom. Endless thunder and lightning appeared above the immortal palace, roaring as if it was congratulating. Congratulations, Daoist Xiao. Seeing this, Sun Jian couldn't help but be overjoyed. He bowed and said, 10,000 thunder and lightning came to congratulate, Daoist Xiao is a true thunder master. While Sun Jian was congratulating, Xiaohua was even more happy in his heart, because the power of the law didn't just turn into a crown, it also penetrated into Xiaohua's body and fell into the five-colored true qi. Under the power of the law, the five-colored true qi became clearer and clearer, and what surprised Xiaohua the most was that under this law, the four halves of the half-sky heart were actually replenished by 20%. Good. Xiaohua was happy but also a little depressed. After all, he had received benefits from others, how could he not accept the title of Thunder Master? Thus, Xiaohua pretended to be in a difficult position, pondered for a moment, and said, this Xiao thanks Immortal Emperor for thinking highly of me, but this Xiao still has a very important matter to ask your majesty. I don't know if your majesty can. Rest assured, Daoist Xiao. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, you are now my Immortal Palace's Thunder Master. Although you are still a Daoist cultivator, as long as it involves the secrets of my Confucian cultivators, I won't answer you. But as for the other things I know, I can answer you. Moreover, this Thunder Master crown can be taken out at will. If you want to reveal your identity, you can just reveal the crown. If you don't want to reveal it, you can naturally keep it in your body. It doesn't have any special effect on you. Xiaohua was overjoyed. He glanced at the Eastern Sea Empress, and the Empress seemed to have a smile on her face as she slightly nodded at Xiaohua. Xiaohua understood, kept the Thunder Master crown, and said, this Xiao wants to ask. Chapter 4601. Unfortunately, before Xiaohua could finish, Immortal Emperor Gaochen waved his hand and said, Daoist Xiao, don't worry. Wait until I've dealt with this damn thing, then I'll talk to you. All right. Xiaohua looked at Sun Jian, who nodded slightly. Soon after, Xiaohua moved to the side. The celestial being and Wen Chu also moved, forming a triangle with Xiaohua. Everyone. Immortal Emperor Gaochen glanced at Heavenly King Qinyu, Heavenly King Fuyu, and the others. Although his tone was calm, it carried an inviolable majesty. You all have contributed. When I return to Lingyun Palace, I'll issue a decree. Now, all of you can return. Thank you, Your Majesty. Heavenly King Qinyu, Heavenly King Fuyu, and the others were overjoyed. After bowing, they flew back to Southern Heaven Gate. At Southern Heaven Gate, Taibai Jinxing and the other officials were about to rush over. Seeing that the Heavenly Kings and Immortal Generals had all returned and only a few Supreme Cultivators were left in the sky, they also stopped and quietly waited there. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and waved. Thousands of karmic luck mixed with inscriptions soared into the sky and covered the surrounding space. Then, his expression turned cold as he angrily rebuked, Xia Xian. Think about how much trust one have in you. Not only have I handed the mystery hall to you, I've even placed the safety of my immortal palace in your hands. But, how did you treat me? You clearly obtained the outer shell of the Son of Heaven's sword long ago, so why didn't you give it to me? Don't you know that the Son of Heaven's sword is a sacred weapon used by Confucian cultivators to suppress the world? Moreover, you also know that I obtained the true body of the Son of Heaven's sword from the godly devil blood pool. That day, you even vowed to search the world for the outer shell of the Son of Heaven's sword so that I could obtain the complete Son of Heaven's sword. However, I still remember every word you said that day, and your betrayal is like a knife carved into my heart. I suddenly feel that there's no one in this world that I can trust. Your Majesty. The master of Tai Ching Palace looked at Xie Xian in the golden light and said, Xie Xian seems to have something to say. Sigh. Immortal Emperor Gochen sighed, this Xie Xian is truly cunning. Even I don't know when he cultivated to the star realm. Tianji Hall, he must have many secrets that I don't know. Immortal Emperor Gochen's words were a bit ambiguous, but he quickly continued, Master of the Grand Purity Palace, it is not that I don't want to give him a chance to speak, it is that I don't dare to. He knows me too well. I've already suffered a loss before. At this point, Immortal Emperor Gochen told Sun Wu, true monarch Qing Yuan, tell the origin of this matter to the Master of Dual Purity Palace, Your Majesty. He said Sun S's, Sun's, goes Ts. He. With, he, and ants. And leaves Btes. Ts, Xiaohua and Sun Jian spent several tens of thousands of years in the heavenly prison. Even the masters of Tai Ching Palace and Jade Pure Palace were dumbfounded. They finally understood why Immortal Emperor Gochen wanted so many immortal generals to leave. Only the masters of Two Pure Palace, who were Confucian cultivators, knew the terror of the heavenly prison. If those immortal generals knew that Sun Jian and Xiao Hua escaped from the heavenly prison and became supreme cultivators, they would enter the heavenly prison like dumplings. At that time, the immortal palaces would be empty. Masters, don't worry. Immortal Emperor Gochen smiled. After we received the news, we immediately rushed to Black Ruins Mountain and personally sealed the entrance. Although that place is rather special, and we might not be able to maintain the seal for long, we will reinforce it regularly in the future. Plus, I'll seal this information so no one will know. Your Majesty's plan is too meticulous. We can't do it. The Master of Jade Pure Palace smiled and replied. Thank you, Master of Jade Pure Palace. Immortal Emperor Gochen was also happy. He pointed at Xie Xian inside the golden light and said, although I can't let him out, under my seal, I can still use the clear sky mirror to search his soul. Masters, you'll know what happened after you see it. Very good. The Master of Tai Ching Palace nodded in agreement. Immortal Emperor Gochen pointed his finger and the clear sky mirror fell into the sky. Then, a ray of light like the sun shot out from the clear sky mirror and fell into the golden light pillar, covering Xie Xian. Rumble. A series of thunderbolts erupted from the pillar of light, passing through the golden pillar of light and landing on Xie Xian's body. Illusory figures flew out from the pillar of light, and within those illusory figures, images flashed past. Some of these images were blurry, while others were clear. Some of the images were of Sun Hao killing the true scholar and defeating the Devis in front of Black Ruins Mountain. Damn it! The Master of Jade Pure Palace cursed. His calm face actually showed anger. Sun Jing was actually killed by that bastard Xie Xian. No wonder this king couldn't find his whereabouts no matter what. In the images, Xie Xian killed the generals of Black Ruins Mountain. Immortal Emperor Gochen waved his hand and the clear sky mirror fell back into his hand. Immortal Emperor Gochen's expression was cold. He glanced at everyone and asked, Xie Xian deserves 10,000 deaths. I want to kill him. Masters, do you have any objections? No. The Master of Jade Pure Palace shook his head. No. The Master of Tai Ching Palace also shook his head. When Immortal Emperor Gochen looked at Wen Chu shook her head and replied, no. Good. Immortal Emperor Go Chen saw that the palace masters had no objections, so he pointed at the golden throne. Boom! A loud explosion came from the golden throne as it soared into the sky. At this time, the Empress, who was sitting on the other golden throne, also quickly stood up and pointed at the throne as well. That golden throne also fell into the golden light. Immortal Emperor Go Chen opened his mouth and a dragon-like cloud fell into the golden throne. The golden throne then turned into the shape of a guillotine. This guillotine was connected like a mountain and emitted buzzing noises as it spun down. The Eastern Sea Empress was not slow either. She also opened her mouth and a phoenix-like cloud fell into the other golden throne. This golden throne then turned into a guillotine with a surging golden light. Woo! The guillotine as large as a mountain and the guillotine as large as an ocean fell on the golden light. Inscription chains as thin as hair came out from the pillars of golden light and tightly bound Xia Xian's body. Not a single inch was spared. Crack, crack, crack. The guillotine spun and came down with majestic lightning bolts. These lightning bolts emitted an unstoppable destructive intent. All of this mercilessly fell on Xia Xian's body. In the time it took to drink half a cup of tea, the guillotine had completely swallowed Xia Xian's body. Xiao Hua also saw clearly that Xia Xian was not only killed by the two golden thrones, but even his soul couldn't escape. Moreover, when the guillotine and the guillotine combined together, didn't it look like an immortal slaying platform? Sai, Wenxing of 9th level origin energy. Seeing Xia Xian being mercilessly killed by Immortal Emperor Go Chen using the immortal slaying platform, Xiao Hua also sighed. Who knows how many years of cultivation and how many hardships he went through, but he was destroyed by a single thought of greed. If he didn't have too many desires and only cultivated with a normal heart, how could he have ended up like this? If Xia Xian was like this, then how could Prince Lan not be like this? Because of this, our Dao sect's emphasis on being emotionless is also reasonable. However, some cultivators are too afraid of being entangled by desires, so they simply cut off all their desires. This is truly a bit excessive. Of course, Xiao Hua was only a bit emotional. He didn't sympathize with Xia Xian at all. He was thrown into the heavens prison by Xia Xian. If it wasn't for his heaven-defying luck, how could he still be standing here? After killing Xia Xian, Immortal Emperor Go Chen solemnly waved his hand and pulled out the Son of Heaven's sword from his waist. Thousands of auspicious lights rushed out from the sword and fell on the outer shell. The outer shell rushed into the auspicious lights and disappeared for a moment. Afterward, an endless stream of energy rushed out from the immortal palace and entered the Son of Heaven's sword. The sword energy from the Son of Heaven's sword covered the entire palace. Inside, the scriptures quickly flashed and filled the entire space. When Immortal Emperor Go Chen clenched his fist, the endless images all fell into his hand and were stored inside the Son of Heaven's sword. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Both Sun Jian and the master of the two pure palaces had excited expressions as they bowed and congratulated him. Congratulations, congratulations as well. Immortal Emperor Go Chen put away the Son of Heaven's sword and replied with a smile. Meanwhile, Xiao Hua watched as the immortal slaying platform transformed back into two golden thrones, which were kept by Immortal Emperor Go Chen and the Eastern Sea Empress respectively. He smiled and asked, Your Majesty, if it's possible, can you answer my question now? Master Xiao Lei seems to be very impatient. Immortal Emperor Go Chen killed Xia Xian and took the Son of Heaven's sword. He seemed to be very happy. Even though his expression couldn't be seen under the crown, his tone was very friendly. He smiled and said, Master Xiao Lei is now my immortal palace's Master Lei. You even helped me kill the traitor. I still want to hold a big banquet in the Lingyun Palace to ask for Master Lei's reward. Xiao Hua looked at the majestic immortal palace and smiled. There will be plenty of time in the future to go to the immortal palace. Your Majesty, please answer this Zhao's question first. Okay. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at the two masters of the pure jade palace and nodded. Master Xiao Lei, please speak. I will tell you everything I know. I want to ask. Xiao Hua looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen and said word by word, Ninth Princess Xian's whereabouts. At the mention of Xian, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's body trembled slightly. Then, he saw the inscriptions on the armor that had already landed on the Emperor's armor suddenly rush out again. Pa pa pa. With a series of chaotic sounds, tens of thousands of inscriptions on the armor exploded in midair. Clusters of sparks rushed into the sky. Chapter 4602. Your Majesty, my pure jade palace still has matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Seeing this, the pure jade palace master bowed slightly and was about to leave. Don't worry, pure jade palace master. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said faintly, after I finish speaking, we'll return to the Immortal Palace together. The pure jade palace master was helpless and could only stand there. However, he had already closed his eyes, leaving only one ear here. Xian violated the immortal law and has been imprisoned in the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said coldly, does Master Xiao Lei have anything else to ask? Xiao Hua looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen with a smile that wasn't a smile and said, Your Majesty seems to know what I want to ask, so there's no need to change the topic. Xiao Hua. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's tone was even colder as he replied, Where Xian is imprisoned is my decision, it has nothing to do with you. You don't have the right to tell me what to do. Your Majesty. Xiao Hua didn't back down and asked forcefully, Your Majesty has already said that as long as it's not a secret of the Immortal Palace, Your Majesty will tell you everything you know. Where Princess Xian is imprisoned doesn't seem to be a secret of the Immortal Palace, right? Moreover, I only want to know where Princess Xian is imprisoned, that's all. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was furious and turned to East Sea Empress and scolded, East Sea Empress, this is probably your idea, right? You actually dared to collude with the Dao sect behind my back. Your Majesty. East Sea Empress's tone was also cold as she replied, Xian is your flesh and blood after all. Although she violated the immortal law. Hasn't it been remedied now? Moreover, your gains are 100 times more than what you lost. Not only did Xian not make any mistakes, she even contributed. You. Why are you so heartless and not telling me where she is imprisoned? Could it be that your face is more important than Xian's several hundred years of loneliness and punishment? As for colluding, this concubine doesn't dare to accept this word. Presumably. Someone in the Medicine Flower Palace is worthy of this word? Master Xiao Lei came to ask for an audience, but as the master of the Immortal Palace, you actually came out of the Medicine Flower Palace. Hearing that East Sea Empress actually came to the Medicine Flower Palace Master, Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. He hastily learned to hide to listen to the Flower Palace Master. When he looked at Sun Jian again, he felt a little embarrassed. Humph. Immortal Emperor Go Chen snorted and interrupted her before she could finish. His voice was somewhat hysterical as he roared, That's right, I've hardened my heart. So what? On the day of the Heaven's Choice Assembly, how many chances did we give Xian? As long as she tells me Tian Xian's whereabouts, we will definitely not punish her. But what about her? In front of the Mahavairakana world revered one, in front of the golden-winged Great Peng, in front of the many family heads who came to congratulate him, he shattered his dignity. For the sake of the Immortal Palace, I racked my brains every day, thinking hard about how to appease the 4 aristocratic families and how to play with the Buddhism sect and the demon clan. Relying on your favor, you didn't put me in your eyes and made me unable to get out of the embarrassing situation. The awkwardness that day. It's not like you didn't see it. You only knew how to beg bitterly. Did you think of my feelings? Have you ever thought of Ching Ching and Meow Meow? Now, look at you. You actually joined forces with Dao sect cultivators to force me. Do you still treat me as the master of the Immortal Palace in your eyes? At this point, he looked at Xiao Hua and said, Xiao Hua, and you. I don't know how Xian gave that half Tian Xian to you. However, since you took Tian Xian, you should know how important Tian Xian is to Xian. You are only a Dao sect cultivator. What use do you have for Tian Xian? Don't tell me you didn't have any other thoughts that day. You wanted to use Tian Xian to force me to do something. However, it's good that we had good fortune. When Chu appeared by your side, Tian Xian used his hand to return the 5 Qis unifications technique to my Immortal Palace. Today, you forced the Immortal Palace, we didn't pursue your crimes. This is already not bad. You actually dare to interrogate us? Seeing Immortal Emperor Go Chen turning hostile like flipping a book and immediately denying him after gaining the upper hand, Xiao Hua was also helpless. He said faintly, it's naturally useless for me to take Tian Xian. But Tian Xian. I can't return it to Xian. Xian also didn't tell me how important Tian Xian is. You naturally can't take it out. As long as Tian Xian touches it, it will definitely fuse together. How can you take it out? Immortal Emperor Go Chen said coldly, this is Xian's sorrow. So. Xiao Hua raised his head and said, I'm coming. I'm going to erase this sorrow. What? Immortal Emperor Go Chen sat up from his golden chair and roared, if we didn't tell you, would you have entered the Immortal Palace? Why not? Xiao Hua also sneered, previously, I didn't have the strength. Now. I can. Son. At this time, East Ocean Empress also stood up. After saying one word, she changed her words, Your Majesty, you. You have changed. You have really changed. You have changed so much that I don't dare to recognize you. There is no one in this world who doesn't change. We are changing, you are changing, Xian is also changing. However, your changes can't catch up to us. That's why you said we have changed. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said and pointed at Xiao Hua, isn't he also changing? Previously, he was just a small Dao sect cultivator struggling at death's door in hidden Immortal Continent. Now, he can be arrogant in front of us and point at us to interrogate us. East Ocean Empress shook her head in disappointment, you are wrong. When I said change, I wasn't talking about this change. Their change is a happy change, but your change is cold. Change is change. There is no difference in nature. Immortal Emperor Go Chen replied, for the Immortal Dao. All changes are worth it. Yes, for the Immortal Dao. East Ocean Empress sighed, I can abandon my family and bloodline. After saying this, East Ocean Empress patted her golden chair and turned into a golden light that rushed into the Immortal Palace. Under the golden light, 2 pearl-like tears shone with despair. Your Majesty, you really won't tell us? Xiao Hua watched East Ocean Empress leave and looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen with lightning eyes. You want to attack? Immortal Emperor Go Chen sneered, I'm not afraid of you knowing. Now that I have the Son of Heaven's sword, I have already surpassed the shackles of the 3 continents. Although you are a human Mahayana realm cultivator, you are still not us match. If you could activate the Son of Heaven's sword right now, would you still be here wasting time with me? Xiao Hua retorted. Humph. Immortal Emperor Go Chen snorted again. He raised his hand and pointed. The clear sky mirror flew out again and a pillar of golden light fell from the sky. You have a good plan. Xiao Hua sneered and said, do you think I am Xia Xian? Your imperial treasure that can restrain Confucian cultivators is not us match. While saying this, Xiao Hua rolled up his Daoist robe and took out the Kunlun mirror. The Kunlun mirror also flashed with a 9-colored pillar of light and shot towards the golden light. Rumble. Pa pa pa. Amidst the loud rumbling, the sound of shattering could be heard. Whether it was the golden light or the 9-colored pillar of light, they were all shattered. Even the space between the Kunlun mirror and the clear sky mirror started to distort strangely. Where this distortion landed, a hole appeared on the surface of the Kunlun mirror and the clear sky mirror, and a powerful suction force came from this hole. Damn it! Seeing the suction force from Xiao Hua's Kunlun mirror that was beyond his control, Immortal Emperor Go Chen did not dare to be careless. He quickly raised his hand and slapped his golden chair. Woo! A golden light flew down and covered the clear sky mirror. Xiao Hua was even more shocked. He quickly opened his mouth and a green light rushed out and covered the Kunlun mirror. Return. Xiao Hua saw the suction force decrease and immediately used his mind to put the Kunlun mirror into the space. Immortal Emperor Go Chen also understood and used the golden light to tell Xiao Hua about the clear sky mirror. Your Majesty. Sun Jian saw this and quickly bowed. The 9th princess has violated the immortal law, but Your Majesty has already punished her. Didn't Your Majesty say it already? The heavens used the master of the Palace of Literature to give Your Majesty the 5 energies origin technique, giving Your Majesty a weapon to subdue all the Confucian cultivators in the world. Now that Master Xiao Hua came to the Immortal Palace, didn't the heavens also use Master Xiao Hua to save the 9th princess and also to fulfill Your Majesty's familial love? Sun Jian's excuse came at the right time. Immortal Emperor Go Chen pondered for a moment and looked at Xiao Hua. Master Xiao Hua, I won't hide it from you. I have already agreed to the marriage proposal of the Nangong family in the Lingyun Palace. Your Majesty. Sun Jian was a little surprised and blurted out. How come I don't know about this? If I let you know everything, won't the Empress stay in the Lingyun Palace every day? Immortal Emperor Go Chen scolded with a gentle tone. Sun Jian quickly bowed and asked for forgiveness. I know my mistake. Your Majesty, please forgive me for my difficulties. Sigh, if I don't forgive you, how could I let you know? Immortal Emperor Go Chen sighed and said. If you all have difficulties, do you think I don't have any difficulties? Do you think I am willing to agree to the marriage proposal of the Nangong family? Do you think I am not willing to announce this happy event in the Lingyun Palace? Yes, your humble servant understands. How could Sun Jian understand? He was only carefully agreeing. Master Xiao Hua, I am not afraid of you laughing at me. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked to the left and said. I am an immortal emperor who is only a figurehead. The 4 great clans are powerful and the 100 schools of thought are not convinced. Although my school of the military controls the immortal palaces and protects the fate of the Confucian cultivators, I feel like I am being roasted on a fire every day. The demons in the 1,000 demons sacred realm are very powerful. The Grand Saint of Starry Sky is in the Great Sage Hall. Perhaps not long after, the demons will launch a large-scale invasion. Although the Pure Land is inhabited by the human race, the Buddhist sect is prosperous. That oppressive Buddhist light always wants to fall on my hidden immortal continent. Sutra seeking extreme bliss, Sutra seeking extreme bliss. If it wasn't because I was powerless to stop it, how could I create this gimmick? Luckily, the Buddhist sect is undergoing a great change. Buddha Maitreya has rebelled from the Thunder Sound Temple and is temporarily residing in the snowy mountain. Ah! Xiao Hua was shocked and shouted. When did Buddha Maitreya rebel from the Thunder Sound Temple? Immortal Emperor Go Chen did not answer Xiao Hua. Instead, he continued. It is also at this time that the master of the literature palace descended from the heavens. My immortal palaces have the strength to play games. I do not want to lose this opportunity. Therefore, Master Xiao Hua, I have no choice but to ally with the Nangong family and borrow the 5 Qi unifying art to unify the Confucian cultivators in the world. Chapter 4603. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's words were emotional, but Xiao Hua knew that this was only Immortal Emperor Go Chen's method of ruling. He wanted to retort, but seeing that Immortal Emperor Go Chen seemed to be relenting, he went along with Immortal Emperor Go Chen's words and said, Your Majesty's hard work, I can understand it. Just controlling the fortune gate already gives me a headache, not to mention Your Majesty controlling the hidden immortal continent. So. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded and said, Master Shaolei must understand me. I also said the same thing to the Nangong family in the Lingyun Palace. If you want to marry the 9th princess, you can. However, you have to show me your strength and save the 9th princess with your own strength. Now, other than the Nangong family, the Dongfang family, Shiman family, and Baiming family have also formally proposed marriage with the other 3 princesses. Hee, do you think I don't know what they are thinking? Don't they all want the 5 energy unification technique? However, these 4 families are indeed places that my 4 princesses can be entrusted to. I gave the Nangong family a difficult problem to let the other 3 families see that my princesses are not to be casually married. I would rather bear a bad name and let others and families see me as a cold-blooded person to find someone worthy of my princess's trust. And Xan is even more so. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's golden chair emitted a golden light, and a shadow rushed into the sky. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's voice finally came, "That's all I have to say. If Master Shaolei doesn't believe me, you can fight your way to the Lingyun Palace." "Oh, Scholar Palace Master, I know you have a good relationship with Master Shaolei. You can follow Master Shaolei to the hidden immortal continent to search. This subject respectfully sends off your majesty." Sun Jian's cultivation was the lowest among them. Seeing that Immortal Emperor Go Chen had said all he needed to say, he hurriedly bowed and said. As Immortal Emperor Go Chen flew away, the golden light in front of the palace disappeared, and the guards could see the situation inside again. At this time, Xiaohua looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen's flying figure and felt helpless in his heart. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said so much, but it was all nonsense. He didn't reveal where Xian was imprisoned. But all this nonsense was to tell Xiaohua, how could the princess of the Immortal Palace be easy to marry? If you want to marry the new princess, then you have to show your strength and find out where the new princess is imprisoned. After all, the Nangong clan also didn't obtain any useful information from Immortal Emperor Go Chen. Damn it, I messed around in the Immortal Palace for half a day, but I didn't even take a single step into the southern heavenly gate. Xiaohua gnashed his teeth in hatred as he inwardly cursed, "Furthermore, I can't say anything." He was trying to find a reliable lover for his daughter. No wonder he could become an immortal emperor, while I can't even be the Fortune Gate's gate chief. Fellow Celestial Immortal, thank you for your skill. If there is a chance, we will spar again in the future. Farewell. The Jade Pure Palace Master was the first to bid farewell. He nodded at the Celestial and left on the purple cloud. The Celestial being also put on a good show and said, "The Lord of the Jade Pure Palace is very powerful, I also admire you greatly." On the other hand, the Grand Purity Palace Master wasn't in a hurry to leave. He looked at Xiaohua and said calmly, "Master Xiaohua, I was a little reckless today." "Sigh, it's fine." What else could Xiaohua say? They were both supreme cultivators of the human race. Although there was a difference between Confucianism and Taoism, they were already very close to the final step. Their previous battle wasn't particularly desperate, so he could only wave his hand and say such words. Actually, I'm curious about. Why can't Master Xiaohua enter the profound yellow list? The Grand Purity Palace Master said again, this profound yellow list was refined by the ancient purple micro-immortal emperor using an immortal imperial artifact. Previously, it was used to record the rankings of the experts of the Confucian, Buddhist, Taoist, and demon races. It was only used after Taoism declined that it was used. Therefore, as long as one hasn't transcended the laws of the 3 continents, one can enter the profound yellow list. This king can, the Jade Pure Palace Master can, Immortal Emperor Go Chen, the 7 sages, the Mahavirakana World Lord, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord, and the Maitreya Buddha World Lord can all enter. Why can't you? Xiaohua bitterly smiled and rubbed his nose. How would I know? I'm afraid I'll have to trouble the Grand Purity Palace Master to ask the Purple Micro-Immortal Emperor about this. Forget it. The Grand Purity Palace Master bitterly smiled. This king is too stubborn. If Master Xiaohua isn't willing to say, then so be it. This Xiao really doesn't know. Xiao Hua spoke the truth. However, the Grand Purity Palace Master didn't seem to believe him and only cupped his hands, saying, "This king will take his leave. If you have time in the future, Master Xiao Hua can come to my Grand Purity Palace with the Literature Stream Palace Master as a guest." Although there are differences between Confucianism and Taoism, this king doesn't look down on Taoism too much. Alright, I hope such a day will come. Xiao Hua had already seen the Grand Purity Palace Master's Taoism cultivation. He wasn't surprised by his words and only cupped his hands, sending off the Grand Purity Palace Master who had caused trouble. Master Xiao Hua. After everyone left, Sun Jian bowed and said, "This junior really didn't expect you to receive the title of Master Xiao Hua the moment you came to the Immortal Palace. This junior is very envious. Damn it." Xiao Hua didn't feel any pressure facing Sun Jian. He smiled, saying, "Your Immortal Emperor's schemes are truly formidable. This Xiao really isn't his opponent. Sigh, if there wasn't such an Immortal Emperor, how could my military school control the entire Immortal Palace?" Sun Jian thought of what he saw in the Immortal Palace and sighed. Actually, there are some things that he might not be willing to do. For example, Master Xiao Hua. If Senior didn't force him here, how could he give the title of Master Xiao Hua to Senior? Senior, put yourself in his shoes. How much determination would he need to give a Taoism cultivator the title of Master Xiao Hua of the Immortal Palace? Yes, this is also the reason why this Xiao didn't force him too much in the end. Xiao Hua also sighed. However, a moment later, Sun Jian bowed again and said, "Of course, if Master Xiao Hua didn't come today, this junior wouldn't be able to kill my enemy. This matter, I still have to thank Master Xiao Hua." Xiao Hua hurriedly supported Sun Jian and said with a smile, "You and I don't need to be polite. This Xia Xian is our common enemy. This matter. This Xiao also has to thank Immortal Emperor Go Chen. If it wasn't for his immortal slaying platform, we wouldn't have been able to kill a 9th grade Wen Xing." Indeed. Sun Jian nodded. His Majesty's immortal slaying platform is most useful for Confucian cultivators, but it doesn't have much effect on Taoists and Buddhists. It is said that the Grand Mist Ancestor escaped from this immortal slaying platform that day. Forget it. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeve and said, "This old man will take his leave. You should return to the Immortal Palace and keep an eye on the Flower Medicine Palace. Don't let that Immortal Emperor who was driven crazy by Empress Dowager fool around. This old man still has to think about how to find Xian's whereabouts." Sun Jian was slightly embarrassed, but he still carefully said, "The Fortune Gate might not be as good as the Nangong family. Master Xiao Hua might as well follow the Nangong family. It was possible before, but I'm afraid it won't be possible now." Xiao Hua said with a smile, "The Immortal Palace is in trouble, and Master Xiao Hua's title has been confirmed. Who knows what other people will say about today's matter in the hidden Immortal Continent? The Nangong family will definitely know. That might not be the case." Sun Jian shook his head and said, "Only the Master of the Two Purity Palace knows about what Master Xiao Hua said. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world." Xiao Hua said with a bitter smile, "Don't forget, there's still the Empress who isn't any worse than the Immortal Emperor. This old lady only wants to save the 9th princess. As for who she saves, she might not care." Empress. Sun Jian wanted to defend the East Sea Empress, but when he thought about it, the East Sea Empress was indeed using Xiao Hua. He smiled apologetically and said, "They are elders after all. It's not good for this junior to comment." "Then don't comment." Xiao Hua said with a smile, quickly returned to the Sun Palace. "Right now, there must be many immortal generals gathered in front of your palace. This can't be helped, there are ways of the world everywhere." Sun Jian's face also revealed a bitter smile. Xiao Hua looked around and said with a smile, "It wasn't easy for this old man to find the Immortal Palace. Is it very difficult to leave the Immortal Palace? Now that Senior is already the Lightning Master of the Immortal Palace, it will be very easy to find the Immortal Palace in the future. There won't be any obstructions if you leave now. Sun Jian said respectfully, if senior is not familiar, then this junior will send senior out. It's better if you send me out. Xiaohua said with a smile, let this old man walk by himself, maybe I'll even find the flower medicine palace. Xiaohua's words were naturally a joke. After Sun Jian accompanied Xiaohua out of the space where the Immortal Palace was, Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and asked Wen Chu in a low voice, fellow Immortal, when did the Maitreya Buddha betray the Thunder Temple? I don't know, I'm afraid it's about when fellow Immortal entered the Star Moon Palace. Wen Chu shook her head. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, there must be a reason why the Maitreya Buddha betrayed the Thunder Temple. We should go and take a look. However, right now, the Little Ling Long Temple in the Great Snow Mountain must be the center of attention. It's too eye-catching for us to go there now, we can only wait until later. Right now, the most important thing is to find where Xian is imprisoned with the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal. I caused a ruckus in the Immortal Palace. It's been almost a year on the hidden Immortal Continent. I don't know if the Nangong family has gotten any more information. Let's return to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range first. Wen Chu pondered for a moment and said, since we might have to go against the Nangong family, let the Fortune Gate's disciples take action. All right. Xiaohua agreed and said with a smile, fellow Immortal and Diviner return to the space first. I have some gains in the Star Moon Palace, and fellow Immortal also benefited from it. Xiaohua had already told Wen Chu about the tricolored cloud and Xian Hong's law discussion. Wen Chu laughed and said, very good. This young man thanks fellow Immortal, this young man will return to the space and listen to the heavenly Tao and karma law discussion. Xiaohua released his divine sense and looked around. Knowing that there was no one around, he shook the Kunlun mirror and put Wen Chu and Diviner away. Then, he released Fujiwen, Baidan, and the Pegasus flying chariot to bring him back to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Give a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a gift, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4604. Along the way, Xiaohua did not hide anything and told Fujiwen about the Immortal Palace. Fujiwen was speechless, and Bai An's expression changed several times. Then, Bai An lowered his head as if he was thinking about something. On the other hand, Xiaohua closed his eyes and rested as if he had a card up his sleeve. Fujiwen was also surprised, so he urged the Pegasus to fly towards the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. In less than a day, Xiaohua returned to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Xian Somzi, Daoist Jingting, and the other disciples came out to welcome him. Currently, no one dared to covet the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Within a few thousand li radius, there were Fortune Gate disciples patrolling the area. Xiaohua alighted from the flying carriage and sat on the jade chair in the Fortune Gate Palace. Below the high platform, Yuanya, Fujiwen, Wang Bianfei, Chang Yuan, Yu Zhongquan, and the other inner disciples stood to the left. Xian Somzi, Daoist Jingting, Ao Zhantian, Su Tingzi, and the other outer disciples stood to the right. Below the two rows of disciples were other Fortune Gate disciples, such as Gongshu Yisin, Gongshu Yiming, and Mo Jianli. Zhang Daoran, Zhai Xingzi, Sun Kong, and the others stood behind these disciples. As for the loyal Black Bear Spirit, he stood in front of the group of disciples, closest to the high platform. Xiaohua sat down, raised his hand and patted the top of his head. Boom! Another 10,000 thunderbolts rushed up to the sky, enveloping the sky of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. All the disciples bowed and saluted. Disciples greet the head elder. Their voices reverberated in the air above the Fortune Gate Palace, and the Black Bear Spirit's voice was the loudest. Sect Master? Xiaohua was stunned and asked curiously, what's the reason for this? Why are you suddenly calling me Master? Master, the title of Sect Master is something that disciple discussed with Bai and on the way back. After discussing it with the other senior and junior brothers, everyone felt that it was appropriate. Fujiwen calmly walked out and bowed. There are 4 reasons for the sect master's words. First, there is a record in the middle treatise. The previous emperor appointed instructors, and the sect master taught the 6 virtues. This is the origin of the title of sect master. In other words, it means to be in charge of teaching. My master is my fortune gates professor, and all cultivation techniques are taught by my master. He is worthy of the title of sect master. Secondly, our fortune gate is now divided into 2 parts. The Shao country has already been established, and junior brother Lan is the grand preceptor of the Shao country. On the other hand, the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's fortune gate has already been established. With master as the gate chief, wouldn't his position be the same as junior brother Lan? Therefore, Shifu should appoint junior martial brother Li Xiang or junior martial brother Xiong Yi as the sect leader. Shifu should be in charge of a country or a sect, he should be the sect leader. Thirdly, now that the Dao sect has fallen, master used his own strength to create the Dao sect. The Dao sect stood side by side with the Confucian cultivators, the Buddhist sect, and the demon race. They were the inheritances of the human race. His master was naturally called the sect master. Fourthly, as the dragon master of the Dragon Island and the lightning master of the Immortal Palace, master has a noble status and is worthy of the title of sect master. If you're talking about an illusion, I do know about it. But what about this great master? Xiaohua asked with interest, what kind of story is this? Hee, great master. The black bear spirit hurriedly laughed. This is what this little one said. Previously, senior martial brother Fu only said sect master, but this little one felt that sect master was not intimate enough, so it was better to call him great master. Then. Shifu. At this time, Wang Bianfei also walked out with a smile and bowed. Since Shifu is great master, then what about martial uncle Lei Ting? Martial uncle Wenxiu? Isn't it second great master or third great master? Therefore, this disciple suggested calling Shifu great master. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at his disciple and waved his hand, saying, our Dao sect, Confucianism, Buddhism, and demons exist side by side, naturally we can be called a sect. But with the decline of the Dao sect in the hidden immortal mainland, although we have a certain status, compared to the real Dao sect, we are still insignificant. If this great master was heard by others, we would be mocked as a frog at the bottom of a well. Don't mention this again in the future. Shifu. Fu Jiwen didn't agree with Xiaohua's opinion and said respectfully, this disciple doesn't think so. That immortal Emperor Go Chen's strength is similar to Shifu's, and Mahavairakana is also not much stronger than Shifu. Even the golden-winged Great Peng. Didn't it also lose to Shifu? They can call themselves immortal emperors, world sovereigns, and great sages, so why can't Shifu call himself great master? Moreover, only when Shifu is great master can junior martial brother Lan and junior martial brother Xiongyi be good sect masters. Only then can we disciples spread our branches and spread our leaves. Senior Shao. At this time, Zhai Xingzi also came out and said respectfully, senior martial brother Fu Jiwen is right. Currently, senior is the leader of our Dao sect, and your position determines the development of our Dao sect. Only the title of great master is suitable for senior's identity. Moreover, I think that since the primordial chaos ancestor can call himself an ancestor, then senior can naturally call himself the sect master. Only an open, upright, and broad-minded person like senior is worthy of being the sect master of my Dao sect. Listening to everyone's words, Xiaohua inwardly pondered. Everyone's words were reasonable. Perhaps he was indifferent to fame and fortune, and didn't like these titles, but he couldn't block the path of others because of this. If he didn't elevate himself, how could Xiongyi, Fu Jiwen, and the others have the space to display their abilities? What would others think of his fortune gate? If he didn't follow good advice, there might be a second or third Lan Prince appearing. Good. Xiaohua nodded. In that case, Shifu can also reluctantly be great master. Greetings, sect master. All the disciples were overjoyed. Just as Xiao Hua was about to raise his hand to help the group of disciples up, he heard the lightning reverend call out from within the space. He, fellow Taoist Xiao, if you are the head elder, then am I the second head elder? He. Xiao Hua laughed inwardly. I won't say anything about this matter. Let's hear what the disciples have to say. Good. The lightning immortal, Wen Chu, and the others cheered in the space. Good disciples. After waiting for all the disciples to stand up, Xiao Hua said with a smile, you all pushed your master to the peak of the limelight of the head elder, then how do you and the other martial uncles rank? Shifu, don't be impatient. Wang Bianfei was the most quick-witted, and hurriedly said with a smile, disciples have already come to a conclusion on this matter, but Shifu, please explain to your martial uncles that you are the same as Shifu, you can also be great master. But since you are in the fortune gate, you can only have Shifu as the great master. The other martial uncles are not ranked first or last, they can only be addressed differently. Let's hear it. Xiao Hua asked with interest. Wang Bianfei respectfully said, the Kunlun Paradise's fortune gate was first established by martial uncle Lei Ting. If Shifu is great master, then martial uncle Lei Ting is second master. Hearing this, Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the Kunlun mirror flew out and landed above his head. A light pillar flickered, and the lightning immortal walked out from the Kunlun mirror. We disciples greet the second elder of the sect. Wang Bianfei was overjoyed, and he led his fellow disciples to kneel. Zhai Xingzi and the others were confused, but when they saw another Grand Ascension stage human cultivator walk out, they were ecstatic. Ha, good disciples, stand up. It's good that you didn't forget this old man. This second master. This old man is very fond of you. The lightning immortal cared about his face the most, and when he heard his disciples calling him second master, leaving Wen Chu and the other clones behind, he was overjoyed. He laughed heartily as he helped his disciples up, and with a wave of his hand, a jade bottle appeared in front of each of them. The lightning immortal casually took out a jade chair and sat to Xiao Hua's left. He smiled and said, this is a pill refined by this old man, and it has nothing to do with cultivation techniques. Take it. Many thanks, second master. All the disciples were overjoyed, and after expressing their gratitude, they accepted the pills. Xiao Hua smiled and said, you are generous. I's disciples, I will naturally be generous. The lightning immortal's face was filled with joy, and he looked at his disciples with benevolence in his eyes. Fujiwen took another step forward and said respectfully, Master, martial uncle Wen Chu also put in a lot of effort when building the fortune gate. He should be the third master. Haha. The Kunlun mirror shook again, and Wen Chu stepped out from the light pillar. He laughed and said, I am the third master. Disciples greet third master. All the disciples were of the same cultivation level, but those who cultivated Confucianism were more respectful. This is the literary star that the sect master was talking about? Gusuchuri exclaimed when she saw Wen Chu's unfathomable cultivation. She immediately recalled Xiao Hua's words. Hee, not bad, little girl. Wen Chu laughed and said, this old man is not only the third master of the fortune gate, but also the owner of the literature palace. When I have time, this king will personally go to the Gusu family to propose marriage as the owner of the literature palace. Junior thanks the third master. Gusuchuri was so happy that tears flowed down her cheeks. You can all get up. Wen Chu also took out a jade chair and sat beside Xiao Hua. He raised his hand and helped all the disciples up. Not to mention Gusuchuri, even Gongshu Isin, Gongshu Yiming, and Mo Jinli were pleasantly surprised. They were brought back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range after coming out from the Star Moon Palace. Although the Fortune Gate also had Confucianism disciples, these disciples' strength far surpassed the three of them. The three of them didn't know which disciple Xiao Hua would find to be their master, and they were anxious every day. Today, seeing Wen Chu come out, how could they not know that this was the master that Xiao Hua had found for them? How many people in this world could become the Literature Palace's master's disciple? Sure enough, Xiaohua smiled faintly and looked at the three disciples, saying, Gongshu Isan, Gongshu Yiming, Mo Jianli, quickly come and greet your master. Yes, first master. The three of them answered and hurriedly walked out. They knelt below the high platform and respectfully said to Wen Chu, disciples greet master. Chapter 4605. Stand up. Wen Chu nodded. The sect master has already told me about the three of you. Master will accept you into the sect now. Fortune Gate's disciples have no taboos, except for one. Killing one's own brothers. Yes, disciple will remember. The three of them hurriedly agreed. Wen Chu continued, since there are several sect masters in our Fortune Gate, master can be considered your master. The other masters are also your masters. Not only can you ask them to teach you, but you must also treat them with the same respect as master. Yes. The three of them answered and stood to the side. After Wen Chu accepted Gongshu Isan, Gongshu Yiming, and Mo Jianli, Fu Jiwen spoke again. However, he hesitated and did not finish his sentence. This fourth master should be that martial uncle, right? That's right. Xiaohua nodded. He has boundless benevolence in his heart and is the kindest. He is qualified to be the fourth master. Venerable Master Sun Kong and the others were bewildered. They did not know what the Fortune Gate's disciples were talking about, but looking at the respectful expressions on their faces, they knew that this fourth master was a person of virtue and prestige. We greet the fourth master from afar. The black bear spirit's eyes turned, and he bowed. Fu Jiwen and the others nodded in agreement. However, before they could get up, Xiaohua's face lit up. He looked outside the Fortune Dao Palace, and sure enough, there was a strong gust of wind outside the Fortune Dao Palace. A wave of starlight energy fell like a tsunami, and a loud voice rang out, "Fuck, this saint was only delayed for a moment, and that little monk actually took the fourth master's position. Huh, fellow Daoist has returned at the right time." Since Xiaohua knew, the lightning Daoist and Wen Chu naturally knew as well. Everyone smiled as they looked outside. Swoosh. A streak of starlight flashed, and Starry Sky Great Sage Feng Wu's figure appeared on the stage. Feng Wu had just stabilized himself when he flapped his wings, and the white lion and golden condor flew out and landed beside the black bear spirit. The black bear spirit was overjoyed, and he hurriedly saluted respectfully. Disciple greets the fifth master. Disciple greets the fifth master. Fu Jiwen and the others did not dare to delay and saluted as well. Starry Sky Great Sage. Zhang Daoran felt a little dizzy. The demonic beast clan's number one master, the Great Holy Temple's number one great saint. Is the Fortune Gate's fifth old master, then? Then what about the sect master's fourth old master? Little monk. When he thought up to here, Zhang Daoran came to an understanding. However, he knew that even if he died, he wouldn't tell anyone about this understanding. Supervoid Great Sage Feng Wu glanced at the people beside Xiaohua. She swaggered over to a jade chair and sat down. She smiled and said, "Fortunately, we returned in time. Those people still haven't come out." Then, Supervoid Great Sage Feng Wu waved her hand and helped the disciples up. Immediately after, she bestowed a demon fruit to each disciple. "Fellow Daoist, why did you suddenly return to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range?" Xiaohua asked with a smile when he saw Feng Wu sitting down. "You should be comprehending profundities in the Great Sage Hall right now. I heard that the Star Moon Palace had been closed. Knowing that you had returned, I specially came to take a look." Feng Wu smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist, wherever you go, you don't come empty-handed. I'm sure you've left some benefits for me, right?" Ugh. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "You have a good idea. You want to plunder I before returning to the Great Sage Hall to comprehend. The profundities in the Great Sage Hall are all at the peak of the three continents. Feng Wu shook her head and said, if you want to comprehend deeper, you'll have to go deeper into the Great Sage Hall. That's a place that none of the great sages in the Thousand Demons sacred realm have ever entered. I don't know, so I don't want to go in for the time being. Fine. Xiaohua flicked his sleeve and handed the palm-sized starfish-like object to Feng Wu. When Feng Wu saw the strange fine lines on the surface of the object and sensed layers of indescribable fluctuations between these fine lines, she couldn't help but be overjoyed. She opened her mouth and swallowed the object. She smiled and said, this poor Taoist is relying on this object to break through the void. Yes, there are also some secret techniques for becoming a god. Xiaohua said with some pride. Wait until we enter the space. I'll ask fellow Taoists Tian Dao and Karma to teach you these. Good. Hearing this, Feng Wu was overjoyed but also calm. She closed her eyes and sat on the jade chair, comprehending the fluctuations of the strange object. Seeing that Xiaohua was talking to Feng Wu through voice transmission and didn't say anything, all the disciples were silent. When Feng Wu closed her eyes, Chang Yuan stepped out and bowed. Martial Uncle Wu's abilities are mysterious and unfathomable. You should be the sixth elder. Good. Xiaohua nodded. He pointed at the Kunlun mirror and Taoist Wu flew out in a flash of green light. Who is this? Is he also a supreme cultivator of our human race? Gusuchuri was dumbfounded. She naturally didn't know Taoist Wu's strength, but when she saw Taoist Wu's gaze sweep over her, she felt that she couldn't retaliate. She already knew that Taoist Wu's strength was unfathomable. Chang Yuan led the Fortune Gate's disciples and bowed. Disciples greet the sixth elder. Rise. Taoist Wu didn't care about the false reputation. He waved his hand and signaled the disciples to rise. He said indifferently, it's rare that you still remember me. I thought you would put me last. Who asked you to have so few disciples to teach? Xiaohua smiled and said, today's ranking is all because of your disciples. I don't care, but don't forget about the other one. Taoist Wu sat down and said indifferently. Xiaohua nodded and said, you're right. This fellow Taoist is probably the strongest. He should be the second elder. Lightning Reverend curled his lips and said, he is strong and has many disciples. But his luck isn't good. Lu Yi, Jiang Hong, and the other dragons have all returned to the heavenly abode river. Yuanya hurriedly bowed and said, Master, Martial Uncle Kuang should be the supreme leader, seventh elder. Before he could finish his words, an aura that made all the disciples prostrate themselves rushed out from the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror. Taoist Yun had shrunk into his human form and flew out. The oppressive aura around him rushed out uncontrollably. I have come to lend you a hand. Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand. A lightning ring fell above Taoist Yun's head. Strands of lightning fell from the ring and blocked Taoist Yun's oppressive aura. The group of Fortune Gate disciples breathed out in relief and bowed respectfully. Disciples greet the sect master, seventh old master. Rise. Taoist Yun's face was expressionless. He looked at Xiaohua and casually sat next to Taoist Wu. This is the dragon race. Even Ao Zhantian, who had already entered the Fortune Gate, couldn't help but roar in his heart when he felt his blood boiling uncontrollably. How many masters do we have in the Fortune Gate? Martial Uncle Yun has come out. Next should be Martial Uncle Tian Ren. Xian Songzi smiled and said, he doesn't have many disciples. Senior brother Yuanya is one of them. Damn it, you bunch of ungrateful things. When Tian Ren heard that it was his turn, he flew out from the space and cursed, only now did you remember me. My ranking is so much lower than that Lei Ting brat. Xian Songzi and the other disciples naturally knew Tian Ren's temper. They hurriedly bowed and said, disciples greet the eighth elder. Rise, rise. Tian Ren was overjoyed, but his face was still tense. He waved his hand and said, it's too late for you to call me. I don't have any more gifts. Hee hee. Chang Yuan laughed and said, then we'll wait for the 8th elder to be happy. We'll talk about it when I snatch that Lei Ting brat's position as the 2nd elder. Tianren sat down beside Feng Wu and grinned. Su Tingzi was also dumbfounded. 8 masters with 9th grade origin energy, ah. His fortune gate was going to defy the heavens, right? Unfortunately, he was still wrong. Yuanya opened his mouth again and said, although Martial Uncle Sure is different from us, he is still a member of our fortune gate. Disciple thinks that he should be the 9th elder. Ha ha ha. A maniacal laugh burst out from the Kunlun mirror's light pillar. Several layers of blood-red light flew out from the Kunlun mirror's light pillar with pitch-black shadows. The demon Lord Shifei flew out and landed in front of Yuanya. He stretched out his large hand and slapped Yuanya hard. Good boy, I was right. Your talent is excellent. In the future, you will inherit my inheritance. The task of dominating the devil world will be handed to you. Fujiwen and the other disciples were naturally familiar with this devil clan's martial uncle. They hurriedly bowed and said, disciples greet the 9th elder. Rise, rise. Archdevil Sure smiled from ear to ear. He waved his hand and a blood-red bead appeared in front of everyone. He said, this is soul essence. Although it's not much, it's enough to support your divine sense to increase by 10%. Thank you, 9th elder. Although the disciples bowed 9 times, they were still very happy. After Archdevil Sure sat down, Xiaohua looked around and said with disappointment, what a pity. Oh. What does fellow Taoist mean? Not only were the disciples confused, even the Thunderbolt Master and the others were confused. Xiaohua looked at the sky outside the Fortune Dao Palace and said, my fortune gate should have a 10th elder. Unfortunately, his whereabouts are unknown. He can't reunite with us. Ah. 10th elder? The Thunderbolt Master and the others were stunned and asked curiously, how come we don't know? Xiaohua smiled and told them about the disappearance of the Phoenix celestial body. Back then, Xiaohua's doppelganger technique was too shallow. The doppelgangers did not have their own consciousness, so they did not know about this matter. When Feng Wu heard this, a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. He smiled and said, if that's the case, this fellow Taoist should be the 8th great sage of my great sage hall. Who knows? Xiaohua shook his head. I still don't know how strong he is now. However, if I'm not wrong, he should be in the light congregating realm or the enlightenment star realm. It's unlikely that he's in the sky devouring realm. Chapter 4606. Forget it. Xiaohua looked at the puzzled Fortune Gate disciples and waved his hand, saying, our Fortune Gate's 10th old master's position will be reserved for the time being, wait for your martial uncle to return. Yes, disciples look forward to 10th old master's return. The group of Fortune Gate disciples bowed respectfully towards the outside. Excellent. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, our Fortune Gate's 10th old master's position has been determined, our Fortune Gate's glory begins today. Congratulations to the 10th old master. Congratulations to the 10th old master. Seeing that their Fortune Gate actually had 9 of the 3 mainland supreme cultivators, all the Fortune Gate disciples were overjoyed and congratulated in unison. After the thunderous cheers subsided, Xiaohua's gaze swept over the crowd below the stage, asking, Xian Songzi, how was the reception of our Fortune Gate's disciples? Xian Songzi did not dare to be negligent, hurriedly bowing and answering, reporting to First Old Master. Disciple accompanied Senior Brother Jingting, Junior Brother Wang Bianfei, Junior Brother Yu Zhongquan, and Junior Sister Changyuan to the 3 mainlands to welcome the Star Moon Palace's Fortune Gate's disciples. After 10 months and 11 days, we welcomed a total of 8,092 Gold Core Realm disciples and 3,601 Foundation Establishment Realm disciples. Among them, 37 were injured. Disciple was ordered by First Old Master to investigate the cause of their injuries. 14 of them were injured by accident, and Disciple felt that there was no need to pursue the matter. Of the remaining 23, 14 were injured in the Thousand Beasts sacred ground, 7 were injured in the hidden immortal mainland, and 2 were injured in the pure land of bliss. Disciple was ordered by First Old Master to kill 49 people and exterminate 85 demonic beast tribes. However, as of now, there are still 15 disciples whose whereabouts are unknown. First Old Master, please punish them. Good. Xiaohua nodded, praising, you've done well. Our Fortune Gates disciples should distinguish between good and evil. We can't let others bully us, but we can't bully the weak. As for those 15 disciples, Master and Xiong Yi brought them back to the Fortune Gate. Master left in a hurry that day and forgot to tell you. This is Master's fault. It's good that all disciples are fine. Xian Songzi finally let out a long sigh of relief, his face relaxed. What about Ao Zhan and those dragons? Xiaohua asked again. Yu Zhongshuan hurriedly replied, Sect Master, I saw Ao Zhan. According to them, after senior brother Lu Yi and junior sister Jiang Hong unified the Grotto Heaven River, they expanded their forces to all the rivers of the hidden immortal continent. It seems that there was some misunderstanding with Ao Zhan's forces. He left in a hurry and didn't have the time to thank Sect Master. Let them be. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Jiang Hong is the princess of the Heavenly Abode River. She is the rightful ruler of the Heavenly Abode River. Ao Zhan was also a direct descendant of the dragon race, so it was natural for him to be in charge of the race. Furthermore, these two dragons were both leaders of their time and talented commanders. It would be strange if they didn't run into each other. Furthermore, from the perspective of the dragon clan, Jiang Hong's status seems to be slightly lower than Ao Zhan's. Now that Jiang Hong's power has far surpassed Ao Zhan's, how could Jiang Hong possibly submit to Ao Zhan? Master, shouldn't we remind junior sister? Fu Jiwen asked worriedly. It's necessary to remind her. Xiaohua's face gradually turned frosty as he said, but a reminder is only a reminder, not their true intentions. Master only wants to say that all of you can do whatever you think is right, even if there are some things that Master doesn't like. However, all of you must remember that you are Fortune Gates disciples. Killing fellow disciples is no exception. The moment Xiaohua's words left his mouth, thunder rumbled, and the entire soaring Dragon Mountain range was covered in ice and snow. Disciple doesn't dare. Disciple will always remember Sect Master's teachings. Fu Jiwen was also shocked, and he hastily knelt down. The other disciples were even more frightened as they knelt down and answered in unison. Xiaohua closed his eyes, and a moment later, he opened them. His robe fluttered, and a dazzling light shot out from the Fortune Gate Palace. Wherever the light passed, the ice and snow melted, and flowers fluttered in the air. Rays of sunlight also fell from the sky, and it was actually spring again. The coldness on Xiaohua's face gradually disappeared, and he said, You all can stand up. All of you have done well. Master is just giving you a reminder. Yes, Sect Master. The group of disciples stood up again. In this short period of time, they had lost count of how many times they had knelt and stood up, but there was only respect in their hearts, and not the slightest trace of dissatisfaction. Is the Shao country's establishment going smoothly? Have those filthy people been cleaned up? Xiaohua's gaze swept over the group of disciples. Fu Jiwen hesitated slightly. After all, he was the one who had received the Grand Preceptor's lot and had his disciple deliver it to Prince Lan. However, he had followed Xiaohua to the Immortal Palace, and just as he returned, Xiaohua had been promoted to a high seat in the hall. He did not receive any report from his disciple. Fortunately, Wang Biafei hurriedly bowed and said, Master, Prince Lan's master. Junior brother received the Grand Preceptor's lot and led the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's disciples, as well as some Fortune Gates disciples to the Shao country. Initially, there were some reports, but Master left in a hurry and did not appoint any senior brother or junior brother to be in charge of the Fortune Gates affairs, so we did not receive any specific reports. When senior brother Xian Songzi and senior brother Daoist Jingting returned, they specifically asked Prince Lan to send a report on the situation this year, but it hasn't been sent back. Xiao Hua asked without any surprise. Xian Songzi said, indeed. Tell me the general situation. Xiao Hua said indifferently. Yes. Wang Bianfei said, junior brother Lan took the Grand Preceptor's lot and established his country in the Shao country. The citizens of the Shao country celebrated. Later, junior brother Lan mobilized the Fortune Gate's Iron Army and annihilated the dozen or so countries of Daoist and Confucian cultivators that Master had warned against. Currently, the Shao country's territory has expanded by another 20%. Wang Biafei explained the general situation he knew and concluded, the current Shao country has become the largest empire on the hidden Immortal mainland. Moreover, it's a Daoist country. Disciple heard that junior brother Lan is supervising the construction of the capital city and is preparing to invite Master to be the ruler of the country. Chang Yuan added. No need. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, the Shao country was established because of the people, and the people are the master. Appointing a ruler is the way of governing a country. Our Daoist sect emphasizes on non-interference, so there is no need for a ruler. A Shao country without a ruler? Fujiwen was also stunned, and then smiled bitterly. Master, what you said is the legendary ideal country. How can it be realized in this country where there are so many Confucian countries? Let's try it first. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, Master has already established the country according to the Immortal Palace's rules. As for how to govern the country, there is no need for the Immortal Palace to interfere, right? That's true. Fujiwen smiled and said, how to govern the Shao country is Master's business. The Immortal Palace has no right to interfere. Of course, the Shi country's affairs are more like a secular country's governance. You and I have no experience. Master's opinion is only for reference. As for the specific situation, let His Highness Lan decide according to the situation. At this point, Xiao Hua transmitted his voice to Fu Jiwen. Jiwen, secretly send enough people to the state of Shi to investigate the recent. Even the situation of His Highness Lan in the past 10 years. Be careful, no one is to speak of this matter. Yes, Fu Jiwen was shocked and hurriedly agreed. Then, Xiao Hua pondered and said, as for the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate, there needs to be someone to take charge. All of you want to cultivate by yourselves, who can handle the daily affairs. Wasn't Master angry just now? Why are you fretting now? Fujiwen was the closest to Xiao Hua. After receiving Xiao Hua's private order, he asked with a smile. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. Lu Yi is a good candidate. But I'm afraid he'll be easily swayed and listen to Jiang Hong. But Xiao Hua couldn't help laughing when he said this. Isn't this nonsense? Isn't Jiang Hong a Fortune Gate disciple? This matter is decided. Pass down my order, have Lu Yi return to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range and take charge of the Fortune Gate's affairs. Xiao Hua ordered. Yes, disciple will pass down the order. Fujiwen hurriedly agreed. There's one more thing. After dealing with the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate's affairs, Xiao Hua thought of another matter. He stroked his chin and looked at the disciples, saying, my Fortune Gate has many disciples, but Master doesn't know much about them. Do you know? Which disciple has the talent to be a merchant that can surpass the Luo Yi Commerce Union's Ingpa? Xiao Hua's words silenced everyone. Everyone looked at each other, no one dared to say anything. After all, they were all cultivators. It was enough for them to cultivate, who would care about merchant matters? Not to mention finding out whose disciple had the talent to be a merchant. Master. Fujiwen pondered for a moment, then looked at the disciples on his left and asked, why are you asking this for no reason? The Luo Yi Commerce Union was established by Ing Po's family. It's not good for our Fortune Gate to interfere. Even if Patriarch Ingpa did something inappropriate, Master can just remind him. Why would Master covet that Luo e-commerce union for no reason? Xiao Hua snappily glared at Fu Jiwen. Perhaps only Fu Jiwen would dare to say such words. Wang Bianfei, Lu Yi, and the other disciples regarded Xiao Hua's words as the golden rule and didn't dare to disobey. Fu Jiwen laughed. Don't tell me Master wants to create another Luo e-commerce union? Someone gave Master something 100 times better than the Luo e-commerce union. Xiao Hua laughed. This old man wants to find someone to take over. Star-picking tower? Xiao Hua didn't need to say anything. Fu Jiwen and the other disciples exclaimed, Master is rich. After saying that, Fu Jiwen felt a little embarrassed and bowed. Congratulations, Master. Congratulations, Master. With the star-picking tower, our fortune gate is like a tiger that has grown wings. This matter must be kept a secret. Xiao Hua laughed. If others know that the star-picking tower belongs to our fortune gate, I'm afraid there will be trouble. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4607. Then. Let's find a Confucian disciple to manage the fortune gate. Wen Chu couldn't help but suggest. Fu Jiwen's heart skipped a beat. He smiled and said, Master, as the saying goes, one should not avoid family and enemies. Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. Without waiting for Fu Jiwen to finish, he clapped his hands and said, Not bad, not bad. I forgot that there is an excellent candidate in front of me. It's her turn. Wen Chu nodded and said, Biyao is a female official of the Immortal Palace. Previously, she was in charge of the School of the Emperor Star. Managing the star-picking tower is a piece of cake for her. Moreover, she is also a female cultivator. She is the most suitable person to manage Star Moon. This king recommends Biyao. Fu Jiwen was overjoyed. After all, Wen Chu's recommendation was completely different from his own. He hurriedly bowed and said, Thank you, Third Master. Call Biyao in. Xiao Hua ordered. A moment later, Biyao came in from outside the Fortune Gate Palace. When Xiao Hua told her about Star Moon, a complicated expression appeared on Baiyan's face. She knelt and said, First Master, there is no problem with this disciple managing star-picking tower. In fact, there are more suitable candidates than this disciple. However, this disciple can manage it on her behalf. When there is a chance in the future, I will hand it over. Xiao Hua naturally knew that Biyao was talking about the new princess. He nodded and said, In that case, you can manage it first. As he spoke, Xiao Hua handed over some tokens of star-picking tower to Biyao. At the same time, he also placed some transmogrification techniques in them. Fairy Xingyu had never shown her true face. With the tokens and transmogrification techniques, no one would be able to discover Fairy Xingyu's departure. In the future, when the new princess took over, she would show her true face. With the title of the Immortal Palace's 9th princess, who would dare to have any thoughts? After receiving Fairy Xingyu's tokens, Biyao looked around and stood next to Fu Jiwen. Xiao Hua looked at the listless Biyao and ordered, Biyao, cheer up. Hurry up and take over Star-Picking Tower and find out about the Nangong family. Upon hearing the words, Nangong family, Biyao immediately woke up as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He hurriedly stepped out of the ranks and bowed to ask for the order. Disciple understands. Disciple requests sect master to allow disciple to take over right now. Approved. Xiaohua nodded. But you must be careful. Don't let anything go wrong. Don't reveal the secret. Don't worry, sect master. Tao Wu said proudly, I was born in the Immortal Palace and have done many underhanded things. I will not be discovered by the other disciples of Zhai Xinglu. Actually, it doesn't matter even if you find out. Xiaohua said with a smile, it's just that master doesn't want to go through so much trouble right now. Fujiwen, bring some disciples to assist Bai En. Yes, master. Fujiwen received his orders and hurriedly left the Fortune Dao Palace with Bai En. Subsequently, Xiaohua asked a few more questions about the Fortune Gate before dismissing all the disciples. In the end, only Zhai Xingzi, Gusu Qiudi, Zhang Daoran, and esteemed Master Sun Kong remained. Looking at the four people's respect, Xiaohua smiled and said, Lady Gusu. Yes, sect master. Gusu Qiudi knew what Xiaohua wanted to say. Her face was as red as a hibiscus. Your relationship with Zhai Xingzi is stronger than gold. After going through so many twists and turns, you are still together. This old man is very envious. This old man has promised to invite Wenxing to your Gusu family to propose marriage. Today, I will invite the Confucian Immortal Master, the Scholar Palace Master, to personally go to the Gusu family. I wonder if you are satisfied. Gusu Qiudi bit her lips and nodded, this junior thanks sect master. Fellow Immortal Wen Chu. Xiaohua smiled and said, Gusu Qiudi and Zhai Xingzi are this old man's good friends. I will have to trouble you with this matter. All right. Wen Chu stood up from the jade chair and nodded, this old man has already mentioned this matter. Leave it to this old man. Zhai Xingzi. Xiaohua looked at the ecstatic Zhai Xingzi and said, this old man still has matters to attend to. I will not be able to personally accompany you to the Gusu family. Zhang Daoran and esteemed Master Sun Kong will go on behalf of this old man. Zhai Xingzi nodded happily and said, this junior understands, this junior understands. Sect master. Esteemed Master Sun Kong shouted from the side, since you are our sect master, then. Can this junior's disciple come to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range? Zhang Daoran's eyes lit up when he heard this. He had already planned to do this, but he wanted to wait for everyone to disperse before telling Xiaohua. However, he didn't expect esteemed Master Sun Kong to have already spoken. Thus, he didn't dare to delay and hurriedly said, this junior also has the same idea. Zhai Xingzi was unwilling to be left behind and said, sect master, this junior also wants to marry Qiu in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Ha, all of you are allowed. Xiaohua laughed, you are all my good friends. How can I not allow it? This disciple also wishes to ask Gongshu Yiming and the others to accompany this disciple back to the Gusu family. Gusu Qiudi had not returned to her family for a long time and was somewhat nervous about returning home. She couldn't help but beg again. Sure. Xiaohua smiled and said, since it is a joyous occasion, it should be lively. See if there is anyone else you know in the Fortune Gate. Invite them over. Thank you, sect master. Zhai Xingzi and the others were overjoyed. After expressing their gratitude, they followed Wen Chu out. Not long after, everyone finished their preparations. Wen Chu knew that Xiaohua still had important matters to attend to, so she simply waved her sleeves and put everyone away. With a sway of her figure, she headed in the direction of the Gusu family. Xiaohua stood up from his jade chair and looked at the empty Fortune Dao Palace. He couldn't help but smile and say, it's just a title of sect master and some ordinary orders. When these disciples leave, this old man actually feels a little reluctant. It seems that many cultivators are infatuated with power for a reason. Fellow Daoist, you are wrong. Daoist sorcerer said with a smile, you are someone who likes to gather and not part. You just don't like to see people leave when the song ends. It has nothing to do with being infatuated with power. Fellow Daoist's personality is a little troublesome. Reverend Yun also agreed, it's fine now that we are all in the 3 continents, but when we leave, I'm afraid you will be sad again. AI, you are right. Xiao Hua sighed and flew out of the Fortune Dao Palace with his clones. He said, days like this are getting shorter and shorter. At this moment, it was dusk again. The sky was dark, and there was no beautiful sunset. Wisps of red light rushed out from the darkness, and a layer of gloom covered the entire land like an incomparably huge net. This gloominess was like Xiao Hua's mood, and it tightly bound the human race's Mahayana realm, preventing him from being free. Xiao Hua flew towards the depths of the soaring Dragon Mountain range. As he flew, he transmitted his voice to his disciples, telling them not to approach casually and not to panic even if they encountered any strange phenomena. After flying for the time it took to finish a cup of tea, they were already far away from the Fortune Dao Palace. However, Xiao Hua didn't stop. After releasing his divine sense, he simply said, "Fellow Taoists, I think we should stay away from the soaring Dragon Mountain range. This place is protected by the Fortune Gate's Grand Formation. If we use any divine ability, I'm afraid it will affect the Grand Formation. That's how it should be." Taoist Wu nodded, and his clones flew out of the Grand Formation. After flying for half an hour, they saw a place with beautiful mountains and rivers. Although the night had gradually seeped in, when they looked at the place, they still felt refreshed. This is it. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He raised his hand and pointed at the mountain in the distance. "Fellow Taoists, protect me." Normally, Archdevil Lord Shi, Heavenly Being, and Taoist Yun would be cultivating in the space. At this time, the 3 clones' expressions were solemn. They nodded like the other clones, and each of them stood still in midair. Xiao Hua's figure swayed, and he landed on the mountain peak. After meditating for a moment, he formed a karmic seal with an indifferent expression. This time, the karmic seal was different from before. As soon as he formed a seal, a tide of light mixed with dark spots poured into the space between heaven and earth. Hurricane after hurricane swept up around Xiao Hua, and wherever the tide of light fell, the light particles and spots were all destroyed. Strands of indescribable fluctuations were instantly generated. At the same time, hundreds of millions of laws of heaven and earth surged and pounced on Xiao Hua's body. Although the area within 100 miles was covered by the storm, and Taoist Wu and his clones were slowly retreating with the storm, they could still see the light on Xiao Hua's body clearly. The backlash of the laws and the accumulation of magic power lasted for 2 hours, and Taoist Wu and his clones had already flown out nearly 1,000 miles. Naturally, the area within 1,000 miles had also become the eye of the storm. Fellow Taoist Wu. Heavenly Being was puzzled, and he asked with a voice transmission, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, why don't you go to the sky with such a great momentum? Won't you destroy the surrounding area if you stay here?" "Fellow Taoist, you don't know." Taoist Wu said with a smile, "Taoist spells are most particular about the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao is contained between heaven and earth. If you're in the sky, you can only detect traces of heaven and earth, but not traces of earth. Princess Xian is suppressed in the heaven punishment prison crystal, and it's more likely that she's trapped somewhere on the ground. Therefore, fellow Taoist Xiao can only detect this karmic seal by touching the ground with his body. Of course, fellow Taoist Zhao's karmic hand hasn't reached phenomenal mastery yet. If it reaches phenomenal mastery, there's no need for such a great momentum, and there's no need for you to touch the ground." As Taoist Wu spoke, Xiao Hua's body suddenly flashed and disappeared. The area within 1,000 miles seemed to be still, and a strange fluctuation spread out with Xiao Hua as the center. Wherever this fluctuation passed, everything became transparent, and all colors were wiped out. In the blink of an eye, an irregular space that was tens of thousands of miles in size was created around Taoist Wu and his clones. Swoosh. Like the faint sound of water, hundreds of millions of water filaments seeped out from the space. At the same time, the space between these water filaments began to distort. As it distorted, countless lights and shadows appeared in the air. Mountains and rivers, heavenly palaces and jade palaces, layers upon layers of torrential floods and tsunamis, and scenes of joys and sorrows flashed out. However, all the lights and shadows were only black and white, and all the lights and shadows were imprisoned in this space. Taoist Wu and his clones didn't dare to delay, and they each used their divine powers to pin down the space, and then closed their eyes to comprehend the fluctuation in the air. Give it as a reward, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4608. Boom. After an unknown amount of time, Xiaohua's body emitted a thunderous roar, and Xiaohua's disappearing figure reappeared. At this moment, Xiaohua's figure actually refracted extremely dim 9 colors, and this figure turned into 9 phantoms. Xiaohua's figure flashed, and another hand seal was formed, but the hand seals formed by the 9 phantoms were different, and the 9 phantoms gradually turned into different karmic hands in the 9 colors. The space shook, light and shadows swirled, and the cries of gods and ghosts came from an unknown place. Strands of demonic energy, underworld energy, and even more inexplicable strangeness began to disturb Xiaohua's casting. Taoist witch, demon sovereign sure, and even celestial beings snorted coldly. As they opened their mouths, their visions turned into light and shadows, and as the interference weakened, Xiaohua's figure became more and more illusory, and the space shook more and more. The light and shadows that were scattered all over the space began to converge into the thousands of streams of water. After an unknown amount of time, the space suddenly stopped shaking, and the thousands of streams of water instantly turned into an extremely thin water thread. This water thread rushed into the 9 karmic hands and disappeared in a flash. As the water thread dissipated, everything disappeared, and countless halos of light suddenly rushed out within tens of thousands of miles of space. Wang wang wang. The huge roar sounded again, and looking at the still space, it was now moving, and many thick cracks appeared in the space. Scenes of light and shadows flashed before the eyes of the clones, and it was actually the situation of the space within tens of thousands of miles of space during these days. Woo woo. Strange sobbing sounds were heard, and under the feet of the clones, the earth, mountains, lakes, streams, ancient trees, and green grass appeared one by one. In the sky, the blue dome of heaven, the clouds, the sunset, the stars, and the moonlight also recovered. Among all things, Xiaohua, who was sitting cross-legged at the top of the mountain, also broke out of the cocoon from the 9 phantoms. In an instant, a distortion appeared around Xiaohua, and then an even more powerful energy of the laws covered the heavens and the earth as it descended. Countless halos of light blossomed from Xiaohua's body like fireworks, and it actually caused others to feel that it was unreal. Boom! Just as the avatars were about to move, a primordial spirit phantom that was over 10,000 meters long suddenly rushed out from Xiaohua's body. It madly rushed into the sky and sank into the ground. However, in the next instant, this phantom once again converged into Xiaohua's body. At the same time that the Yuan spirit phantasm fell back, a powerful suction force was born from between Xiaohua's brows. It swept across the nearby space, and like a whirlwind, all the strange phenomena fell into it. At this moment, it was another night where the moonlight was like water. The wind blew gently, the water gurgled, the mountain ridge was like a dragon, and the landscape was like a painting. As Xiaohua slowly got up, everything returned to its original state. The clones couldn't bear to disturb the painting of the night, so they slowly walked over. When they were close, Taoist sorcerer cupped his fists and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoist, your karma technique has improved again. Thank you for your hard work, fellow Taoists." Xiaohua's eyes flashed with extraordinary splendor, and the rich brilliance of humanity gradually emerged from his eyes. Xiaohua also cupped his hands and said, "I hope that fellow Taoists have also gained something. The heavens reward the diligent, fellow Taoists. 99 days of hard work were not in vain." The celestial being showed off his gentleness, causing Xiaohua to chuckle and reply, "Yes, fellow Taoists should go back and cultivate. Wait until I find a new one, then I'll ask for your help." "Very well." Daoist sorcerers group didn't say anything else and entered their respective spaces. Immortal Emperor Go Chen is truly ruthless. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and coldly said, he actually imprisoned his princess in such a dangerous place. No wonder why the Eastern Infernal Empress couldn't find out anything no matter how hard she tried. However, I don't know where this place is, so I'll have to ask someone else. Having said that, Xiao Hua became spirited and urged his body to return to the Fortune Dao Palace. Out of Xiao Hua's expectation, Wen Chu was sitting on top of the Fortune Dao Palace, accompanied by Gusu Qiudi, Gongshu Yisin, Gongshu Yiming, Mo Jianli, and other disciples. Behind these disciples were a few Confucian disciples who were sitting cross-legged while Wen Chu was explaining the 5-energy unification art. Xiao Hua didn't disturb them. His figure flashed and landed on a jade chair in the middle. He didn't disturb anyone. After waiting for 2 hours, Wen Chu's lecture ended. All the disciples opened their eyes and were overjoyed. They all bowed and paid their respects to the sect master. Lu Yi still hasn't returned? Xiao Hua frowned and asked. Gongshu Yisin respectfully said, First Elder might not know, but the Heavenly Grotto River is not close. You ordered this disciple to fly there and then fly back with senior brother Lu Yi. 100 days definitely won't be enough. Xiao Hua nodded and asked Gusu Qiudi with a smile, did the Gusu clan agree? Gusu Qiudi blushed again and said shyly, with third elder here, outside of the Immortal Palace and the 4 great clans, which clan would dare to not give face? Thank you very much, first elder. Seeing that Gusu Qiudi was satisfied, Xiao Hua didn't ask anything else. He waved his hand and a jade eye landed in front of Gusu Qiudi. There is a dangerous place here. Take a look and see if anyone knows where it is. Yes. Gusu Qiudi took the jade eye. Her clear eyes flashed and her face showed confusion. She thought for a moment and handed the jade eye to Gongshu Yiming and said to Xiao Hua, this disciple doesn't know. You can go and see if anyone knows. I have something to say to your master. Xiao Hua nodded and ordered everyone to leave. After everyone left, Xiao Hua looked at Wen Chu, and Wen Chu looked at Xiao Hua. The two of them didn't speak. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Wen Chu said, Fellow Daoist, have you made your decision? Xiao Hua was a little absent-minded. He nodded casually, but his tone was firm. Wen Chu also looked at the night sky outside the Fortune Dao Palace and said, everything in this world is like the night sky, there is no direction in the vast expanse. Perhaps a ray of moonlight can give you hope, but if you follow the moonlight, you might only see a dead end. Immortal Emperor Go Chen is the master of the Immortal Palace and has been in charge of it for countless years. His scheming is not something you or I can compare to. Earlier, when I heard that the Immortal Palace appointed me as the master of the Literature Star Palace, I didn't dare to believe it because Sun Jian knew very well that our relationship was not ordinary. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was not afraid of this relationship and insisted that I enter the Literature Star Palace. Of course, this was because of the 5-energy origin law, but it was also because of his decisiveness and patience. Even though fellow Daoist didn't attack the Immortal Palace and only fought against the master of the 2 pure palaces at the southern heavenly gate, what was the difference between this and attacking the Cloud Over Hall? Immortal Emperor Go Chen actually appointed you as the Lightning Master and even asked me to help you. This kind of breadth of mind. TSK, I can only say that Immortal Emperor Go Chen is the most ambitious person in this world. Both the 4 great clans and the 100 schools of philosophers have underestimated him. That's right. Xiao Hua also nodded. Of course, before this old man went to the Immortal Palace, I had already thought it through. If I couldn't find Xian's whereabouts, this old man would have definitely fought against Immortal Emperor Go Chen and wouldn't hesitate to overturn the Cloud Over Hall. But in reality, this old man was stunned by Immortal Emperor Go Chen's words. Not only did I not find Xian's whereabouts, but I also helped him get rid of his greatest threat. Today, Although this old man saw karma through the hand of karma and also knew where Xian was imprisoned, it was just as you said. This old man couldn't help but wonder if things were that simple. This old man can use karma. Mahavarakana revered world can see through the world of mortals. Immortal Emperor Go-Chin can also reverse yin and yang. Even that primordial chaos ancestor has a way to conceal the 5 elements, what this old man saw. How could it be completely real? But Wen Chu's face revealed a thoughtful expression and she smiled. Who knows if it is real or fake? Fake and real, real and fake, it can't hide the heart of an emperor who loves his princess. At this point, Wen Chu paused, smacked her lips, and said, actually, fellow Taoist already has an idea, why ask me again? I am you, you are also me, what we think and know is the same. Xiaohua nodded solemnly, doubts are doubts, action is action, I can't not take action because of some doubts. Since I can use the hand of karma to obtain information, I can't not go. Moreover, although Xian and I don't have much contact, that feeling of mutual affection is something I can't forget. She has sacrificed a lot for this, so I can't let her down. I don't understand so much about love, but since you have Xian in your heart and often think about her, then go. Wen Chu smiled and said, my fortune gate's 10 masters have all gone, who in this world can stop them? Immortal Emperor Go-Chin can't stop them, Vairocana can't stop them, and that golden-winged Great Peng can't stop them. At this point, several wind sounds came from outside the Fortune Dao Palace, and Gong Shu Isen's excited voice came from the air, Master, Master, I know. Hee, this child. Wen Chu smiled affectionately, she's so cute. She's a piece of unpolished jade. Wen Chu looked at Xiaohua warily, as if warning him, fellow Taoist has provoked Princess Xian, and also Fairy Jing, this Gong Shu Isen. Don't think about it anymore. PFFF. Xiaohua almost spat out his saliva, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I want to ask Wen Chu Palace Master, do you know what love is? I don't know. Wen Chu honestly said, however, I see that Fairy Jing is depressed, and I'm afraid that my disciple is also like that. Enough. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, when love comes, no one can say it clearly, even Princess Xian. I didn't think too much about it that day, but when it comes to matters between men and women, I can't make the decision. While they were talking, Gong Shu Isen had already rushed in, and when she saw Xiaohua, she immediately shouted, Master, this is the hidden immortal continent's famous day and night cliff, but the angle in Master's jade eyes is wrong. At this point, Gong Shu Isen suddenly realized something, and she stuck out her tongue, took a deep breath, and said, Sect Master. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4609. When Chu waved her hand and said, "Don't make it hard on yourself, call me master if you want. Daoist Xiao is like a brother to me, I won't blame you." "Hee, that's good, master." Gongshu Isin giggled and said, "Sect master drew it from a different angle so the color is much dimmer so I couldn't tell." Morning and Night Cliff? Is it very famous in Burial Immortal Continent? Xiaohua didn't understand and looked at the excited Gongshu Isin. Gongshu Ixian was like a proud little hen. She raised her head and said, "Of course. Even if 99% of us Confucian girls haven't been to Morning and Night Cliff, who doesn't know about it?" Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry and scolded, "I'm not a Confucian girl, of course I don't know." "Master, you must know that Magpie Bridge Immortal." Gongshu Isin blushed. Outside the Fortune Dao Palace, Gusuchiodi and the others flew over and obediently stood behind Gongshu Isin. They heard Gongshu Isin recite in a low voice, "The delicate clouds play tricks, the flying stars spread hatred, the silver rivers pass on in secret. Golden wind and jade do meet, surpassing countless mortals. Tender as water, auspicious days like a dream, enduring the Magpie Bridge to return home. If two people love each other for a long time, why would they be together day and night?" Hiss. Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and his eyes lit up. "Sin, you're talking about tender as water sword? Not bad, not bad. Master is great. I didn't think you would know about the number 1 imperial artifact of Confucian." Gongshu Isin couldn't help but clap and laugh. Xiaohua covered his mouth and laughed, thinking to himself, "Fortunately, Fu Jiwen was sent to Star-Plucking Tower by this old man. Otherwise, he would have exposed this old man's shortcomings. This is what he told me back at Zhaixing Lu." Cough cough. Xiaohua coughed, "Of course I know about the 10 great imperial artifacts." While speaking, Xiaohua had already told Wen Chu the story of the 10 great imperial equipment. Wen Chu asked, "What does Morning and Night Cliff have to do with the number 1 imperial artifact, tender as water sword?" "Of course it's related, master, and it's very related." Gongshu Isin blinked her big eyes, as if she didn't understand Wen Chu's words. Her eyes were filled with grievance. "Master, don't you know that Lihua Fairy fell into the Milky Way and died at the Day and Night Cliff?" "That's strange." Wen Chu didn't understand. Pear Blossom Immortal Palace. Didn't she kill the 100,000 celestial soldiers at Southern Heavenly Gate before she was killed by the Star River Water Sword Empress? Why did she die at Morning and Night Cliff? Also, I've been here for so many years, palace for many years. How could the Immortal Palace have records of something that would damage the Immortal Palace's reputation? Gongshu Isin explained, "Moreover, although Lihua Fairy destroyed the immortal weapon in the Immortal Palace, she was still no match for Celestial Empress. After luring out the Heartless Man, Celestial Empress used the Star River to separate them. Lihua Fairy was so angry that she cut off the Star River, causing the tender-feeling sword to turn into a star and leave. She then followed the Heartless Man to escape to the end of the Star River. In the end, the Star River flowed endlessly and separated her from the Heartless Man. That Heartless Man even broke his heart and abandoned Lihua Fairy by the Star River, causing Lihua Fairy's heart to die, and she fell into the Star River and died." "Forget it." Xiaohua smiled, "There's no need to talk too much about ancient stories. Tell me where Morning and Night Cliff is." "Master, this isn't some ancient story." Gongshu Isin defended herself. Looking at Xiaohua's uninterested expression, she curled her lips and said, "You male cultivators really don't understand romance at all." "Isin." Gongshu Yiming reminded in a low voice, "How can you speak to First Elder Sect Master like that?" Gongshu Isin came to her senses and hurriedly said respectfully, "First Elder Sect Master, Morning and Night Cliff is in Qing Province. However, where the Star River fell, the mountains within thousands of miles collapsed and the weather changed greatly. Only Morning and Night Cliff stood there alone like a heartless pear blossom fairy." First Elder Sect Master. Seeing Gongshu Isin sad again, Gusuchuri hurriedly interrupted. Senior brother Xian Songzi seems to be from Qing province. He definitely knows where Morning and Night Cliff is. Enough. Wen Chu waved his hand. You can leave now. I won't bring you there this time. Let Xian Songzi come over. Yes, second elder sect master. Gusuchuri agreed without hesitation. Gongshu Isin wanted to fight for this opportunity, so she said in a low voice, Sect master. This old man has important matters to attend to this time. Xiaohua glared at her and said, even if you call the 11th elder sect master, I won't bring you there. 11th elder sect master? Gongshu Isin was stunned, then nodded sadly and followed Gusuchuri out. Isin is only in the Gongshu family. Xiaohua smiled. If she was in any other small family, she would have been schemed against. Aren't you in my fortune gate now? Wen Chu smiled. This old man like such a pure disciple. But it's strange, when you brought Gongshu Isin to the Star Moon Palace, that Gongshu Jingyi didn't say a word. When Gongshu Isin entered my fortune gate, the Gongshu family's patriarch also didn't say anything. She is the Gongshu family's most important array master. This is where the Gongshu family's brilliance lies. Xiaohua smiled. Gongshu Isin benefits from this, and it all belongs to the Gongshu family. The Gongshu family knows that Isin won't forget about her sect. However, if something happens to the fortune gate, and Gongshu Isin doesn't report it to the patriarch, then she will have nothing to do with the Gongshu family. Understood. Wen Chu smiled. It's no wonder that when this old man went to the Gusu family to propose marriage, the Gusu family only opened their doors after an incense stick's worth of time. I'm afraid they have been discussing inside. That should be the case. Xiaohua nodded. Nowadays, every action of a family's disciple has to consider the family's benefits. Speaking of this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat as he thought of a person from a long time ago. Kaizhuxia. Wasn't Kaizhuxia a pitiful girl who sacrificed her life for her family's benefits? I wonder how she and him are doing now. Xiaohua thought of Li Zongbao for no reason. When he thought of Li Zongbao and Kaizhuxia, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of Fairy Hongxia. Damn it, if she knew that I attacked the Immortal Palace for another girl, would she jump into a vat of vinegar? Not long after, Xian Songzi arrived at the Fortune Dao Palace. When he heard that Xiaohua wanted to go to the Dawn Cliff, Xian Songzi thought for a moment and said, Sect Master, although the Dawn Cliff is famous, not many cultivators have been there. Not only is the origin energy there chaotic, but the space there is also very strange. Anyone who approaches the Dawn Cliff will feel a heavy pressure, slowing down their flying speed. Even nascent soul realm cultivators can't teleport there. What's more special is that the weather there is constantly changing, and there are 4 seasons in a day. Of course, with Sect Master's methods, this trip won't be a problem. As long as you know where it is. Xiaohua smiled. Pass down this old man's order, gather 300,000 Fortune Gate soldiers and follow this old man to the Dawn Cliff. Yes, this disciple obeys. Xian Songzi didn't dare to delay and hurried out to pass down the order. Wen Chu smiled. Why is fellow Daoist gathering so many soldiers? Are you guarding against Immortal Emperor Go Chen's scheme? As I know, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's scheme is possible, but not likely. Xiaohua explained, I am preparing for a rainy day to prevent encountering the Nangong family. Since I was able to find out that Princess Xian was suppressed at the Dawn Cliff, the Nangong family's Nangong Tianjiao would naturally know. But then, Xiaohua frowned and said, that's not right. What if Immortal Emperor Go Chen's scheme isn't the Dawn Cliff, but the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range? I will take all the disciples with me, and if he sends his troops to suppress us, it will be troublesome. Even if Immortal Emperor Go Chen doesn't come, what if the 4 great families come? Leave Tian Ren and enlightened Master Yun behind. Wen Chu smiled, leave behind a portion of the disciples and an army of 100,000. Let's see who dares to suppress the soaring dragon mountain range. Deal. Xiaohua nodded and invited Tianren and Enlightened Master Yun out. After explaining, Enlightened Master Yun smiled and said, I alone is enough to guard the mountain. There's no point in having another friend Tianren. You might as well bring friend Tianren with you. If Immortal Emperor Go Chen has other thoughts and sees friend Tianren, he will think that there is no one guarding our fortune gate. He will definitely send an order to attack the soaring dragon mountain range. At that time, I will be here to destroy the immortal weapon and give the immortal palace a head-on blow. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and felt that it was reasonable. After all, Enlightened Master Yun's strength surpassed Tianren and himself, and the Pangu axe was an invincible divine weapon in the 3 continents. With Enlightened Master Yun guarding the soaring dragon mountain range, he would definitely be able to hold back 10,000 enemies. Xiaohua kept Tianren into his space and flew out of the Fortune Dao Palace, leaving behind an army of 100,000 and 200,000 disciples. Then, Xiaohua only brought along Yuanya, Wang Bianfei, and the other disciples, and Xian Songzi to lead the way, and flew out of the soaring dragon mountain range. However, before Xiaohua could fly 100 miles, he saw a transmission talisman flying out from the soaring dragon mountain range and landing in front of him. Xiaohua received it and scanned it with his divine sense. Surprise appeared on his face as Wen Chu asked curiously, fellow Daoist, is there any new news? This is a message from Zhai Xinglu. Xiaohua passed the transmission talisman to Wen Chu and said, Lao Ai and Fu Jiwen have taken over Zhai Xinglu. There is no special news about the Nangong family during this period of time. However, there is a shocking news. The sutra seeking extreme bliss is about to end. Chunzong and his 4 disciples have already entered Yu province when Lao Ai sent the message. I'm afraid it won't be long before they arrive at the longevity town. Thunder Temple's Mahavarakana revered Buddha, Exquisite Temple's Maitreya revered Buddha, Immortal Palace's Immortal Emperor Go Chen, Taibai Jinxing, and Thousand Demons Sacred Territory's Golden-Winged Great Peng are also heading to the longevity town to observe the ceremony. To welcome the end of this grand event, and to consecrate the hidden Immortal Continent's first golden Buddha statue, donate, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4610. After reading it, Wen Chu gave the communication talisman to Xiaohua and shook his head. I'm afraid we have no fate to see such a grand scene. Let's hurry to Chaomuya. Xiaohua crushed the communication talisman and shook the Kunlun mirror again, taking Wen Chu and the other disciples into the space. Then, he swept Xian Songzi with his sleeve and teleported towards Chaomuya. The soaring dragon mountain range was in the Yu province, and Yu province was also connected to Qing province. Therefore, it was not too far to go from the soaring dragon mountain range to Qing province. However, after teleporting for 10,000 li, Xiaohua's figure slowed down again. Because at this time, all the cauldrons under the 9 provinces of the hidden immortal continent had been taken by Xiaohua. Without the 9 regions' cauldrons to suppress the destiny, the entire 9 regions of the hidden immortal continent was plagued by disasters. Although Xiaohua had previously sent out a large number of good seeds, and these good seeds had spread throughout the hidden immortal continent for hundreds of years, which played an extremely important role in preventing the intensification of disasters. However, the fine seeds were only a temporary solution. As long as the cauldrons were not returned to their original places, the 9 provinces would not be peaceful. Xiaohua flew for 10,000 li and saw a lot of suffering, and his heart felt heavy. Actually, when Xiaohua went to the Immortal Palace to ask Immortal Emperor Go Chen, he had another plan. That was, if Immortal Emperor Go Chen happily told him where the new princess was imprisoned, Xiaohua would directly rescue the new princess and then bring the cauldrons to the Immortal Palace to propose marriage. The cauldrons would be the betrothal gift. Of course, the cauldrons were the national weapons of Confucian cultivators, so Xiaohua could not directly tell by then. Unfortunately, Immortal Emperor Go Chen was completely stubborn and did not even say a single word, so Xiao Hua did not even have the chance to mention the cauldrons. In particular, Kong Hongwu, who stole the cauldrons, was killed by Xiao Hua, and Xie Xian, who coveted the cauldrons, was also killed by Immortal Emperor Go Chen. Now, on the hidden Immortal continent, no one knew that the cauldrons were in Xiao Hua's hands. No one even knew if the cauldrons were still in their original places. Of course, Xiao Hua also used the cauldrons to deal with the heavenly demon in the ruins, but Xiao Hua believed that even if Sun Jian saw it, he would not think that it was the cauldrons. Forget it. Xiao Hua couldn't bear it in his heart and secretly made a decision, after rescuing Xian, whether Immortal Emperor Go Chen agrees or not, this Xiao will have to use the 9 prefectures' cauldrons to set up the 9 prefectures' great array. Otherwise, the people of the hidden Immortal continent will eventually. However, when he thought up to here, Xiao Hua laughed bitterly. He also understood in his heart that setting up the 9-province grand formation required the 9-province formation diagrams. He didn't have the diagrams, so how could he set up the formation? If he wanted to bring the cauldrons back, he would have to find Immortal Emperor Go Chen and take out the 9 provinces formation from the Overcloud Palace. However, in order to let Immortal Emperor Go Chen know, he had to spend a lot of effort explaining the purpose of the cauldrons. However, a Daoist cultivator had taken the supreme national treasure of the Confucian cultivators. What did this mean? Just thinking about it gave Xiao Hua a headache. There are some things that are impossible to explain even with 100 mouths. Xiao Gua and the other Fortune Gate disciples had accumulated a lot of good seeds in Xiao Hua's space. In fact, the entire Shenhua continent's billions of people also relied on these good seeds to survive. After Xiao Hua sent out a lot of good seeds from his space, he felt slightly relieved and continued on his way to the Azure province. After a day, he saw that the land below his feet was starting to become sparse. Xiao Hua felt that the journey was about done. He stopped in midair and was about to call Xian Song Zi out to ask for directions. However, at this time, he saw the clouds in the sky flickering. Wen Chu flew out from the space and said with a smile, "Fellow immortal Xiao." Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. He knew that Wen Chu had something important to say and was about to ask. Suddenly, Wen Chu was the first to stare blankly. Before he could finish his sentence, he looked strangely towards Xiao Hua's right and muttered, "How strange. Why do I feel that this place is very familiar?" Seeing the astonishment on Wen Chu's face, Xiao Hua also asked curiously, "I have never been here before. Could it be that fellow immortal has been here all these years?" No. Wen Chu shook his head and said, "I have never been here before. This is certain. However, I feel that there is a kind of aura in that place. This kind of aura to me seems to be from another world." Seems to be from another world? How is that possible? Xiao Hua laughed first. How could fellow immortal have a previous life? Oh, fellow immortal, why did you suddenly come out? This. Wen Chu said absent-mindedly, "I suddenly thought of something." Fellow immortal, aren't you very familiar with the grandmasters of the 4 great clans in Star Moon Palace? Why don't we use them? Them? Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "They are only grandmasters. They are not Wen saints nor Wen stars. I'm afraid that they have very little power to make suggestions about the sex affairs. Moreover, if they want to speak for I or secretly tell I about the sex affairs, they have to think about how long their lives are. Under such circumstances, even if they want to say something, I don't want to hear it." At this point, Xiao Hua looked in front of his head and said, "I don't want to entangle myself with too many mundane matters with Xian. Forget it." Wen Chu reluctantly turned his head back and said, "We'll go to Chaomuya first. After we save Xian, we'll go see if there's anything strange there." With that, Wen Chu was about to enter the dimension, but Xiao Hua hurriedly stopped him and said, "Fellow immortal, you don't need to go back. You're Immortal Emperor Go Chen's personal assistant. Just stay outside and accompany I. Forget it. Wen Chu ignored him and waved his hand. Isn't it just looking for Xian? You can go by yourself. This old man still needs to fuse with that wondrous item. With that, Wen Chu's figure actually disappeared. AI, this group of people. Xiao Hua sighed helplessly. When it's time to use them, not a single one is here. Then, Xiao Hua pulled Xian Songzi out of the dimension and asked about Chao Muya's location. When Xian Songzi saw it, he pointed at where Wen Chu was looking and said, "Master, that's Chao Muya. You flew in the wrong direction." What? Xiao Hua was stunned and felt that it was a bit unbelievable. He looked at Xian Songzi and then to the right. Are you sure? This disciple is sure. Xian Songzi nodded. This disciple flew past here before. Wait a moment. Xiao Hua waved his Daoist robe and took out the Kunlun mirror. Then, he pointed at it, and under the pillar of light, Wen Chu was pulled out by Xiao Hua with an impatient expression. Fellow Daoist, is there anything else? Wen Chu asked. Xiao Hua also pointed in annoyance. Look carefully. The place you said was somewhat familiar is where Chao Muya is. Could it be that you were the pear blossom fairy in your previous life? At this point, Xiao Hua smiled and asked Xian Songzi, "That's right, who's that noble from the Immortal Palace?" Xian Songzi thought for a moment and said embarrassedly, "Master, that's a beautiful legend passed down by Confucian female cultivators. How would this disciple know? Either way, his surname is Sun." Nonsense, this master also knows his surname is Sun. His surname can't be Xiao. Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and said, "Perhaps your martial aunt Wen Chu is this Sun's reincarnation in this life." This time, Xian Songzi hurriedly said, "Master, this. I don't think it's possible. It seems that this so-called number 1 imperial artifact didn't exist in the ancient times. It should have existed not long ago. Perhaps that noble is still living in the Immortal Palace." Ha, ha ha ha. Xiao Hua immediately clapped his hands and laughed. No need to say any more, no need to say any more. It must be that Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal at Chao Muya. Moreover, if it wasn't for him, why would the Empress keep such a close eye on him? Why would he insist on running to that flower medicine palace? Xian Songzi also smiled and said, "This disciple doesn't know." Xiao Hua joked with Xian Songzi, but his divine sense scanned the surrounding 10,000 li to see if there were any traces of the Nangong family. Unfortunately, his joke of covering for her was in vain. There was no cultivator above the 6th level of essence force nearby. Wen Chu, after hearing Xiao Hua's words, looked at the distant horizon and narrowed her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. Since they knew that Chao Muya was in front of them and no Nangong family disciples were coming over, Xiao Hua put Xian Songzi into his space and urged Wen Chu, "Let's go." Wen Chu nodded and turned into a cloud as she rushed towards Chao Muya. They flew for another 4 hours, and the sky was covered in a layer of faint gray. This layer of gray was tens of thousands of li wide, and Xiao Hua already knew that this was Chao Muya. Xiao Hua stopped and turned to look at Wen Chu, whose eyes were flashing with 5 colors, and said in a low voice, "Fellow Immortal, we are still some distance away from Chao Muya, but the heaven-earth yuan qi and righteous qi in the air have already become chaotic, and there are also traces of the power of the moon and stars. It seems that Chao Muya is not simple." Unexpectedly, Wen Chu didn't answer his question. "That's right, it's here. This old man feels a kind of sorrow, a kind of helplessness, a kind of reluctance, a kind of parting. That's strange." Xiao Hua stroked his chin and said, "Didn't fellow Immortal not have so many feelings before? How come you've just merged with that wondrous item, and you've already undergone such a transformation?" No. Wen Chu shook her head. These feelings are not mine, I know it very well. They're not yours? Xiao Hua was even more confused. If they're not yours, how do you know? This old man doesn't know either. Wen Chu was also confused. I'm afraid. We'll only know when we get there. All right. Xiao Hua urged his body to move. We'll go take a look. However, it's best to be careful. Although they were both Mahayana realm cultivators of the 3 continents, Xiao Hua and Wen Chu still had to be extra careful. They both used their divine abilities and slowly approached the gray layer. After flying for a while, not only were there some cracks in space that would occasionally sway, but they would quickly heal and tear apart. It was as if space was extremely unstable. However, when Xiao Hua's divine sense swept through the space, he could clearly see that this space seemed to be divided into several layers. The outermost layer was like a piece of cotton fluttering in the wind, extremely tattered, while the inner layer was tough and intact. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46:11. In the beginning, although there were no traces of people on the ground below Xiao Hua and Wen Chu, the undulating mountain ridge and continuous forest were still somewhat lively. However, the closer they got to the light gray area, not only did the mountain ridge disappear, even the hills became increasingly low and disappeared, not to mention the forest. The entire ground began to have some bumpy undulations. These undulations were either dense or sparse. Looking from the sky, the entire ground actually looked like a sieve. The 2 people's figures gradually sank into the light gray area, but the space around them was not particularly different. It was just that there were more fragments in that space, and from time to time, the 2 people's bodies would explode. If it was an ordinary cultivator, it would naturally be difficult to resist. Perhaps they would not be injured, but no matter what, they would still have to use their divine abilities to resist. Xiao Hua and Wen Chu acted as if they did not see it. They still released their divine senses to explore the surroundings. Woo-woo. The wind was still whimpering, like a woman's sobbing. Xiao Hua did not feel anything, but Wen Chu frowned and unexpectedly stopped. What's wrong? Although Xiao Hua really hoped that Wen Chu and the other clones had their own emotions, he was also afraid that their emotions would go astray. Seeing that Wen Chu suddenly had some reaction, his heart unconsciously tightened, and he asked in a low voice. Wen Chu covered her chest with a painful expression and replied, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, have you heard of this poem before? Old fragrant powder is like the past, love and hate cannot compare. A few lines of calligraphy in the spring, even more sparse in the autumn. The phoenix is cold, the pillow is lonely. The bowels of sorrow serve wine. Even if the soul of a dream is empty, how can it compare to the dream of no?" Xiao Hua was somewhat speechless, but he very carefully nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist, could it be that you have forgotten? The books that you have read. Aren't they also the books that I have read? Moreover, I still remember, searching and seeking, cold and cheerless, miserable and sorrowful. When the warmth returns to the cold, it is the most difficult to reconcile. How can 2 or 3 cups of light wine be compared to him? The evening wind is anxious. The wild goose passes by, grieving, but old acquaintances. Yellow flowers pile up all over the ground. Haggard and withered, who can take care of it now? Guarding the window, alone, how can it be dark? The wutong is drizzling, until dusk, little by little. This time, how can the word worry be enough? That's right." Wen Chu clutched her chest and nodded. "This is also my favorite poem. Previously, I had always recited it, and I remembered every single word clearly. However, I never understood the emotions behind it. However, when I see Chao Muya today, I feel as if I've awoken from my stupor, and I feel a pain in my heart. It's as if my heart is being torn apart. Damn it." Xiao Hua was a little angry now. I was wondering why Immortal Emperor Go Chen let you out so easily. Could it be that he saw through something and did something to Chao Muya? Perhaps. Wen Chu shook his head slightly, confusion appearing in his eyes as he spoke in a low voice. Xiao Hua was conflicted. He wanted to save Xian, but he was also afraid that Wen Chu would encounter something fatal here. After all, he could feel Wen Chu's heartache. It could be said that this was Wen Chu's own feelings. To Xiao Hua, this was somewhat unreconciled. He was like a kite in the sky. At this moment, someone wanted to cut the string in Xiao Hua's hand and let the kite fly by itself. Xiao Hua hoped for this outcome, but he did not like the feeling of not being in control. How about? Xiao Hua probed. I will first send you back to Xinhua continent. Wen Chu bit his lips. How could he still be the Wen Chu palace master? He thought for a moment, then looked at Xiao Hua. Fellow Immortal, I came from you. We are of the same origin. Right now, my heart is in a mess, and I don't know what to do. Why don't you make the decision? Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror. However, as soon as he shook the mirror, he thought of something and asked, Fellow Immortal, do you remember Buddha Bodhi's choice on the primeval continent? Of course. Wen Chu nodded slightly. His eyes flashed with a hint of light as if he had thought of something. Xiao Hua also seemed to have made a decision. The Kunlun mirror did not emit a beam of light. Instead, he asked, humans must experience pain. The first birth of a fetus, the mother's pregnancy, and the pain of childbirth. There are all kinds of things in the mortal world, and many of them are disasters and pain. Fellow Immortal, you are now the Wen Chu star. You are luckier than most people, and even more so than I. To be a human, you must not only have intelligence, physical body, and essence, but also emotions. These emotions. If they were I, then you would not be Wen Chu, but Xiao Hua. Now, I'm afraid it's time for you to truly become a human. Some pain is normal. Without these pains, how will you be reborn? At this point, Xiao Hua said very solemnly, so. It's better to leave this decision to fellow Immortal. I understand. Wen Chu clutched his chest and nodded. I may not have Buddha Bodhi's wisdom, but I have Wen Chu Saint's finishing touch. I also have to face the test of heaven and earth. Let's go. With that, Wen Chu moved and headed towards Chao Muya. Seeing Wen Chu's back, Xiao Hua felt gratified. He put away the Kunlun mirror, swept it with his divine sense, and chased after Wen Chu. He knew that today was important to him, but to Wen Chu, it was even more important. After flying for another 100 or so miles, the light gray space gradually shone with light again. However, this light contained a kind of gloomy darkness. When it landed in the light gray space, it seemed very decadent. A feeling of time passing by involuntarily arose in Xiao Hua's heart. Looking at the ground, there were even more deep holes. The dark light fell into them like pitch-black eyes without eyeballs, revealing a powerless expression. Oh! Xiao Hua's eyes looked around. At this moment, his eyes narrowed, and he looked into the distance. In his divine sense, there was a cliff 10,000 miles away. Furthermore, when his divine sense reached the cliff, it was blocked. Needless to say, it was Chao Muya. Since Xiao Hua had discovered Chao Muya, how could Wen Chu not know? However, his reaction was different from Xiao Hua's. He continued to look forward, ignoring his surroundings. After discovering Chao Muya, the space started to change. Large pieces of space started to shatter. Wherever Xiao Hua's divine sense went, the entire space became like a beehive. The worldly energy and righteous energy became even thinner. When the air blew in this beehive, strange sounds came out. This sound directly penetrated the soul. Even people as strong as Xiao Hua and Wen Chu were not used to it. No wonder Gongshu Xian was so interested in the legend of tenderness like water but didn't dare to come here. Most of the female cultivators on the hidden Immortal continent probably don't have the strength to come to Chao Muya. Xiao Hua thought to himself. Immortal Emperor Go Chen is truly a scheming person. No one would have thought that he would place the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal here. Xiao Hua saw 1,000 zhang tall cliff appear in the distance. This cliff appeared very abruptly on this bumpy ground. Xiao Hua heard the sound of wind howling like a tsunami coming from the top of the cliff. Then, he saw a layer of light cover the top of the cliff. Outside the cliff, where Xiao Hua's divine sense couldn't penetrate, a light like the first rays of the morning sun slowly rose. Chao Muya. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and laughed. It really is Chao Muya on the cliff. This Xiao understands now. Correct. Wen Chu also understood and nodded. This side of the cliff is gloomy and makes one's heart heavy. However, on the other side of the cliff is a fresh morning light. This is where hope lies. Chao Muya's name really lives up to its name. Unfortunately, the mysteries of heaven and earth were actually something that humans could guess. Without waiting for the two supreme cultivators of the 3 continents to finish speaking, the morning light actually crossed over the cliff and landed on this side of the cliff like the rising sun. The morning light quickly covered the space where Xiao Hua came from, and the previous light gray color actually turned into a sky blue color. An indescribable joy appeared in Xiao Hua and Wen Chu's hearts. Xiao Hua was a bit dumbfounded. Because where the morning light passed, the other side of the cliff was covered by a light gray color again. Chao Muya. Chao Muya. Xiao Hua whispered. Could it be? It should be good. Wen Chu sighed and said, Confucian cultivators have a saying, recently, books have come, only small talk, no words to say. Thus, I recognized it, listened to it, and planned to take the words lightly. Si Lantai Song Yu, multi-talented, good at writing. Try and ask, Chao Chao Muya. Where do the clouds go? Chao Chao Muya is indeed long, but Chao Chao Muya is also fickle, more fleeting than the clouds. If I'm not wrong, this cliff should have 2 cliffs. One is Chao Muya, and the other is Chao Muya. The morning light and dusk light constantly change between these 2 cliffs. It can't be. Xiao Hua was a bit dumbfounded. He urged his body to rush up the cliff in the distance. When he stood still on the cliff, an inconceivable feeling appeared out of nowhere. Sure enough, just 1,000 miles away, there was also a tall cliff on the same level as the one Xiao Hua was standing on. On that cliff, there was also a tall cultivator looking at Xiao Hua. It was very strange. Although the 2 cliffs were 1,000 miles apart, when Xiao Hua looked at that person, it was as if he was right in front of him. Even the shock in that person's eyes could be seen clearly. However, Xiao Hua only glanced at that person for a moment before looking down at the bottom of the cliff. Even more unexpected to Xiao Hua was that the bottom of the cliff was not the ground full of potholes, but a surging sea of clouds. Above the sea of clouds, thousands of layers of clouds rippled, covered by a myriad of colors. It was also different from the light gray and blue of Chao Muya. However, when Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over it, he was stunned again. Because even with his divine sense, when it entered the sea of clouds, he could not see the end of it. It was as if the sea of clouds was boundless. Xiao Hua, Master Xiao Lei? Master of the Scholar Palace? The person from 1,000 miles away asked. Although his voice was soft, Xiao Hua could hear it clearly. Xiao Hua raised his head and looked at that person. He cupped his hands and said, That's right. It's this Xiao. May I know who fellow Immortal is in the Nangong family? Chapter 46:12. When that person saw that it was indeed Xiao Hua, he didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly returned the greeting. I am Nangong Yaji, greetings Master Xiao Hua. Nangong Ping Ping is my son and he has returned to my Nangong family. He will remember Master Xiao Hua's help and I will thank Master Xiao Hua on his behalf. Seeing that Nangong Yaji was so polite, Xiao Hua felt embarrassed and waved his hand with a smile. This matter is already in the past, there is no need to mention it again. Is Nangong Tianji here? Hearing Xiao Hua mention Nangong Tianji, Nangong Yaji was stunned and a look of disbelief appeared in his eyes. However, this look of surprise disappeared in a flash and a kind of understanding appeared. He pondered for a moment and said, Master Xiao Hua, there is something you don't know. Not only is my family's master here, even my family's prince is also here. Nangong Yaji's words naturally had a double meaning. Hearing this, Xiao Hua nodded and said, it's good that you understand. I am also here for the same matter. Sigh, I understand. Nangong Yaji sighed and cupped his hands. Senior, please wait for a moment. I will invite my family's master to see. However, there was no need for Nangong Yaji to turn around. A slightly aged voice sounded from behind him. An old man in his 50s walked out from the light gray twilight. He looked at Xiao Hua and said proudly, Spiritual Master Xiao, you shouldn't have come. Xiao Hua already knew that this person was the Nangong family's master, Nangong Tianji, from the words Daoist Xiao and not Master Xiao. Xiao Hua looked indifferently at Nangong Tianji, who didn't greet him, and asked, this sentence should be said by me, right? Humph. Nangong Tianji harumphed coldly, I've been wondering what kind of question you're going to ask the Gaochen when you came to the Immortal Palace and destroyed the South Heaven Gate, forcing the master of the Two Pureness Palace and the Gaochen to intervene. However, I, the Nangong family, even the 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought on the hidden immortal continent guessed many answers. However, no one expected that you wanted to ask about the whereabouts of the 9th princess. You should be honored. Xiao Hua said with a smile, you are the first to know. Nangong Tianji stood there like a mountain. It was as if he had merged with Chao Muya, as he naturally exuded a domineering aura. He turned a deaf ear to Xiao Hua's reply and continued, since you know that my Nangong family is looking for the whereabouts of the 9th princess, you shouldn't have interfered. Or perhaps, you should have informed this old man beforehand. After all, the Nangong family is in the light while you are in the dark. Now, you and I have both fallen into Gaochen's trap. Not only you, but even my Nangong family is in a dilemma. Xiao Hua was also standing on the day-and-day cliff. His figure was like a gentle breeze, and under the bright light of dawn, he exuded an indescribable aura of confidence. Even his words were filled with the light of dawn. Did I tell you that the Nangong family wouldn't come to the day-and-day cliff? Even if we know that Morning Mu Cliff is part of the Gaochen scheme, Xian is right there. Will your Nangong family give up? I won't. Nangong Tianji replied firmly, but this old man can at least persuade you not to come. Where Xian is. Even if there are thousands of soldiers and horses, even if there are mountains of blades and seas of flames, I'm not afraid. Xiao Hua also said firmly. Damn it. Nangong Tianji didn't need to say anything. Nangong Jingyin had already charged out from behind him. Her resolute face was now somewhat twisted as she roared furiously, Xiao Hua. Do you know how much I love the 9th princess? As a level 9 Grand Ascension stage senior, you actually dare to fight with me over the 9th princess. You. How do you want me to face the mouths of the people in the world? Sigh. Xiao Hua also sighed. Looking at Nangong Jingyin, he thought of the fire Qilin in Ardent Fire Mountain. He raised his hand and pointed at Nangong Jingyin. Nangong Jingyin, don't put on an act in front of this Xiao. Xian is only the 9th princess in your heart, not Xian. You are only marrying Xian for your position in the Immortal Palace and for the benefit of your Nangong family. Your so-called love is probably just your own wishful thinking. Speaking up to here, Xiao Hua looked at Nangong Tianji and smiled, since you can see that this is Immortal Emperor Go Chen's scheme, and you don't want to fight to the death with this Shao and let Immortal Emperor Gochen reap the benefits. How about this, you and I work together and find the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal that is imprisoning Xian. After we break it and save Xian, we will see her choice. If she goes with Nangong Jingyin, then this Shao will leave immediately. If Xian chooses this Shao, then the Nangong family will leave immediately. This way, neither of our families will suffer any losses. The 9th princess must go with my Nangong family. Nangong Tianji said plainly, this matter has already been decided that day in Lingyun Palace. Xiao Hua's tone became even more indifferent. Nangong Tianji, you are wrong. Xian must go with this Shao. Before Lingyun Palace, before she was imprisoned in the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal, her heart was already in this Xiao's heart. Damn it. Nangong Jingyin's face flushed red. He had calculated everything, but he missed out on Xian's heart. Right now, he was in a dilemma. If the Nangong family was defeated by Xiao Hua's fortune gate, then the Nangong family's face would fall to the ground. But even if the Nangong family defeated Xiao Hua and he married the 9th princess, would that 9th princess still be the 9th princess in his heart? Although he still cared about the 9th princess's identity, as a man, how could he allow such feelings to exist in this world? Nangong Jingyin. Xiao Hua sneered, looking at your appearance, this old man wants to pity you. Unfortunately, a pitiful person must have a hateful side. If you didn't take advantage of the situation and wanted to destroy Xian's happiness, how could you have fallen to such a state? Daoist Xiao. Nangong Tianji's tone was still arrogant, but there was a hint of euphemism in it. You are a Grand Ascension stage Daoist. You must have seen through the myriad emotions of the mortal world. The so-called love between a man and a woman is nothing more than two hearts. Daoist Xiao must have met a lot of female cultivators in his life. I'm sure you have experienced a lot of such things. Why should you care about the 9th princess? If you think that the 9th princess is a little interesting, there are other princesses other than the 9th princess. Why do you want to compete with my Nangong family? Or, if you are willing, this old man also has a beautiful descendant. As long as you like her, this old man can betroth her to you as a concubine. Moreover, with Daoist Xiao's current cultivation, it won't be long before you ascend. If you ascend, what will happen to the 9th princess? You covet the happiness of the past few decades and delay the 9th princess's future happiness. From what this old man can see, you are the one who will destroy the 9th princess's happiness. Don't young people have a saying that if there is a kind of love, it is called letting go? Why can't you let go? Xiao Hua smiled in the face of Nangong Tianji's earnest persuasion. He rubbed his nose and said, you must be a romantic person when you were young. Who knows how many women you have said these words to? If there was someone who didn't know, they would be moved by your heartfelt words. However, this Xiao finds it funny. This Xiao and Xian have true feelings for each other. Why must this Xiao let go for the sake of true feelings? Your Nangong family is sacrificing Xian's happiness for your own benefits. You are the despicable ones. Yet, you are accusing me of this. This is the biggest joke in the world. Xiao Hua. Seeing that his persuasion was fruitless, Nangong Tianji's expression changed and he asked, do you really want to fight with my Nangong family? Don't think that you can block my attack just because you are a Daoist Grand Ascension stage expert and have the Scholar Palace's master by your side. Don't think that you have the strength to sweep across the hidden Immortal continent just because you have the Fortune Gate's army. Let me tell you honestly, the 4 great families are far from what you know. The 4 great families that you see are only the 4 great families that we want you to see. Even if you have the strength to wreak havoc in the Immortal Palace, even if you have the ability to kill demonic realm experts, you are definitely not my Nangong family's opponent. Nangong Tianji looked up at the sky and said proudly, the so-called Immortal Palace is just an empty name. The Sun family is the representative of the 100 schools of thought. They can't represent the 4 great families. We are only following the agreement of the ancient war to allow the Sun family to enter the Immortal Palace. Ha ha ha. Xiao Hua laughed and pointed at Nangong Tianji. Nangong Tianji, you are really boasting all the way to the southern heavenly gate. Aren't you afraid of being stabbed by Sun Jian's 3-pointed, double-edged blade? If your Nangong family is so powerful, why are you fighting with me over Xan? Furthermore, Nangong Pingping and the others know that I know the 5 energies unifications. You also know that the Scholar Palace's master is my good friend. I don't believe that you didn't connect this matter with Xian losing the heaven's will. I don't believe that you can't guess what I asked Immortal Emperor Gaochen when I went to the Immortal Palace. You're wasting your breath on this Xiao, trying to make this Xiao feel guilty. Isn't that just showing that you're afraid of this Xiao? Nangong Tianji, don't you know that there's a saying among Confucian cultivators, 300 taels of silver here? At this point, a meaningful smile appeared on Xiao Hua's face, and he continued, isn't your goal the 5 cheese unification technique? Why do you want to be a prostitute and set up a monument for your chastity? Facing the Nangong family who wanted to snatch Xin, Xiao Hua's tone was exceptionally vicious. When Nangong Tianji heard this, a hideous smile appeared on his face. Xiao Hua, since you know about it, why are you still doubting the strength of the Nangong family? If it weren't for the 5 cheese unification technique, how could this old man go to the Immortal Palace to propose marriage? Chapter 46:13. TCH. Xiao Hua sneered, don't make yourself sound so farsighted. At that time, Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't have the 5 Qi unification art yet. If you knew it was in my hands, you wouldn't have let Nangong Jingyin go to the Hall of Fragrance. Instead, you would have let Nangong Jingyin throw herself at me. After you flattered Immortal Emperor Gaochen and found out that the 5 Qi unification art was in my and Wen Chu's hands, you realized that you had fallen into Immortal Emperor Gaochen's trap and planned to ambush me and Wen Chu to get the 5 Qi unification art. And if I'm not wrong, the Dongfang family, Shimen family, and Baiming family will all appear, right? As soon as Xiao Hua's voice faded, an even more imposing figure appeared beside Nangong Tianji. This person was over 10 meters tall, his hair was completely white, and when he opened and closed his eyes, his gaze was different from ordinary people's. In his eyes, a faint golden light was flowing, just like 2 suns. That person looked at Xiao Hua with a face as bright as a full moon and said with a dignified voice, Xiao Hua, this old man has underestimated you. Sigh. Xiao Hua looked at the newcomer and sighed, Dongfang Qianghao, this Xiao overestimated you. That day in Xingyue Palace, this Xiao already told Dongfang Yushan clearly. I didn't think that you would still come. Yushan and the others are only disciples of my Dongfang family. Dongfang Qianghao smiled and replied, just as Brother Tianji said, what they know is only a drop in the ocean of our 4 great families. The message that you wanted to convey to this old man through Yushan, this old man has already received it, but don't you think that your little tricks are really unpresentable? Don't you all agree? Ha, of course. Following Dongfang Qianghao's voice, 2 more figures appeared on the other side of the cliff. On the left side, a tall and thin old man wearing a lake blue sword robe, who was even taller than Xiao Hua by a head, stood out. This old man had a long and narrow face and a pair of silver white eyes. When his eyes moved, a faint moonlight flowed. Wasn't this the patriarch of Shimen clan, Shimen Jianzhong? On the other side of him, a plump middle-aged man dressed in a royal blue scholarly robe stood out. Although this man's face was big, his eyebrows were slightly smaller, giving him a delicate and pretty look. What was special was that this middle-aged man's arms were slightly longer, and the index fingers on his hands were even more slender. Wasn't this the Baiming family's clan head, Baiming Cho-Ching? That's right. I didn't think that a grand ascension stage being like him would be able to see so far ahead. Baiming Cho Qing's voice was rather shrill. Similarly, Nangong Tianji did not speak for a long time. When the other three patriarchs stood still, he sighed again and asked, "Xiao Hua, could it be that you saw through this from the start?" "If that's the case, you're even more terrifying than the Grand Mist Ancestor. How could Xiao Hua have thought so much before?" However, when he saw how scheming Nangong Tianji was, he went along with what Nangong Tianji said. When he heard Nangong Tianji's sigh and the appearance of the three family heads, he was even more moved. He smiled and said, "There are only a few ordinary people in the world who can become saints. No one is smarter than anyone else. The only thing that you and I have more than others is that we have more information." Xiao Hua did not admit it, nor did he deny it. This allowed Nangong Tianji to confirm his judgment. He looked at Xiao Hua and probed, "So you're saying that you're already prepared to face the four patriarchs?" Xiao Hua rubbed his nose and revealed a mysterious smile. He replied, "I believe that I've already done it. However, whether or not I can block it depends on the strength of the four patriarchs. Of course, if you want to give it a try, you can give the order now. And, if you've already made plans, you can also give the order to attack the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range and Shao Country. You're thinking too much." Dongfang Qianghao sneered. "The goal of the four patriarchs is the five Qis unification, not the Dao sects. The Shao Country and Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate are things that the Immortal Palace, 100 schools of philosophers, and even Vairocana Buddha should consider. It has nothing to do with the four patriarchs. However, you have to be careful. Who knows, the Immortal Palace might have already sent their immortal army to attack the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. When you're defeated here and run back in panic, there will be no more lair for you to lick your wounds." After probing the situation, Xiao Hua was relieved. He smiled and said, "If the Immortal Palace attacks, that would be the best. First, this Zhao's plan will not be in vain. Second, this Xiao will have a falling out with the Immortal Palace. Xiao Hua, you actually still have hope for that bastard Gaochen." Shiman Jinzhong couldn't help but persuade him again. "Could it be that you didn't know why he sent the master of the Wenchu Palace to your side?" See. When Shiman Jinzhong said that, Xiao Hua couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He didn't think that the four patriarchs would make a move. Naturally, he didn't think that Immortal Emperor Gaochen would send Wen Chu to help him. He and Wen Chu naively thought that Immortal Emperor Gaochen was thinking for Xian. However, now it seemed that Immortal Emperor Gaochen was sitting high up and had foresight. He sent Wen Chu to the hidden Immortal Continent to help him. He might have wanted to kill the donkey after it had outlived its usefulness. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed in his mind. However, he didn't admit it and simply said, "Gaochen's thoughts are his business. Fellow Immortal Wen Chu is my good friend. If I want to face the four patriarchs, he will definitely help." Dongfang Qianghao smiled and said, "Daoist Xiao, the title of Lightning Master might not be comparable to the title of Dragon Master. The title of the Wenchu Palace Master can't buy someone's life. The four of us have been waiting for you for many days. Now that Brother Tianji has said so much, it's only to let you know the true colors of Gaochen." The Wenchu Palace Master gave him the 5-energy origin method, a pearl thrown into darkness. Ever since he stood on the sunset cliff, Wen Chu's mind was no longer on the cliff. Instead, he looked up at the sky. His eyes were filled with confusion, sadness, sorrow, joy, and melancholy. All kinds of thoughts and emotions were born and extinguished like the wind and clouds. Since Wen Chu was like this, Xiao Hua was even more careful. He had said so much to Nangong Tianji, and at the same time, he was also stalling for time for Wen Chu. He was very clear in his heart that it was already the crucial moment for Wen Chu to break out of his cocoon and be reborn. If Wen Chu missed this opportunity, who knew when he would truly become an adult? However, Xiaohua smiled wryly because Dongfang Qianghao and the others were staring at Wen Chu. They clearly knew that Wen Chu had the 5-energy origin method. Even though Wen Chu ignored Dongfang Qianghao's words were meant for Wen Chu, Xiaohua had no choice but to continue. This Xiao understands what you mean, and this Xiao has already told Nangong Tianji that the 5 Qis unification technique is here. As long as you and the other family heads of the 4 great families send out a document and hand it over to this Xiao after finding the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal, this Xiao will definitely hand over the 5 Qis unification technique to you. That way, we can solve this problem without bloodshed and won't fall into Immortal Emperor Gaochun's trap. After he finished speaking, Xiaohua stood with his hands behind his back and gazed at the sky just like Wen Chu. At this moment, the light of dawn that enveloped the cliff Xiaohua was on started to change again, and it flashed towards the cliff the 4 great clans were on. After Xiaohua and Wen Chu, the light gray twilight slowly rose again. As Xiaohua had expected, the 4 families' patriarchs also stood firm like boulders on the mountain cliff. They didn't discuss this through voice transmission. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Dongfang Qianghao spoke. Xiaohua, you've just taken over the fortune gate, so you don't know the hardships of our 4 families. That's why you're offering such conditions. Do you think that our 4 clans have been able to stand on the hidden immortal continent for so many years because of the so-called Confucian secret arts? No. Xiaohua withdrew his gaze and looked at Dongfang Qianghao. I know. The so-called face is more important than the 5-energy origin method in your eyes. I know that you won't agree, and Immortal Emperor Gaochun also knows that you won't agree. In my eyes, Xinxin's freedom, Xinxin's happiness, and love for Xinxin are all more important than the 5 Qis unification technique. You 4 clans know this, and Immortal Emperor Gaochun also knows this. Therefore, Dongfang Qianghao nodded and solemnly said, even if we know that this is Immortal Emperor Gaochun's plan and he knows that we will see through it, we still have to take action. This is fate. When the Nangong family proposed the marriage, this ending was already planted. Xiaohua nodded and said, I have already said this before. Shimen Jinzhong laughed and said loudly, you have said this before, but at that time, you only said it to brother Tianji, not to the 4 clans. This old man is very interested. Xiaohua, even if you have more than 200,000 Fortune Gate soldiers, as well as the Scholar Palace's master and other 9th grade origin Qi realm cultivators helping you, why do you think you can withstand the combined might of our 4 families? This is something that even the Immortal Palace can't do. Just based on the so-called love in your heart? Xiaohua had been paying attention to Wen Chu. At this time, the emotions in Wen Chu's eyes had begun to stabilize. Although these emotions still seemed a bit erratic, and there was still some distance between them and the final moment, after hearing Shimen Jianzhong's words, Xiaohua knew that he had no chance to delay any longer. He smiled and took out the Kunlun mirror, saying, love is the sun in the sky, sprinkling the sunlight down. Strength is the earth, carrying the sunlight, turning the beauty in the light into the world of mortals. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.